right here on Sportsnet. We're in the Samsung broadcast studio.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait for it.
The Blue Jays hasn't won consecutive games.
Live at Barclays in Brooklyn, it's the 2018 NBA Draft, presented by State Farm. Over the next 5 hours, some of the great names around the world will get drafted. Some will boom, some will go the other way. We've got a panel of thousands. We've got special guest Donovan Mitchell, one of the greats from last year's draft, will join us on set. Vince Carter, among others, including number 1 in 1987.
The first selection in the 1987 NBA Draft will be made by the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs select David Robinson from Navy.
But David Robinson, as everybody knew, the first pick in the draft, he's 7'1", 235 pounds.
I know the Spurs fans won't like me saying this. If I were David Robinson, I would not sign. He has the ability to be in the best position any player has ever been in any NBA draft. He can be a free agent after 2 years. He can pick the team he wants to play for, negotiate with them, negotiate with anyone, and get the best possible deal that he can get. If I were him, I think that's what I would do. Unless the Spurs can figure out if he doesn't want to play there and he'd like to go somewhere else, to make a deal when they can, sign him, and then try and make a deal with that team so that they know that they've got him under lock and key, ready for him when he comes out in 2 years. But I will say one thing about this young man. He is the kind of player that can make a team a winner, a champion. He is probably the best defensive shot blocker that I have seen since Bill Russell's days. He is a tremendous young person, and he is a hard worker.
He's also a two-time NBA champ and a Hall of Famer inducted in 2009. David, first of all, welcome to our set. Thank you for being with us as we get ready for another big here in the first pick. But I see you smiling. What do you remember about that day? What do you remember?
Well, I remember I wasn't here. This is actually my first time at the draft, so I'm getting a chance to see all this energy, kind of reliving all that excitement and how much these guys' lives are going to change. But, you know, I just remember being young and knowing I'm not going to be able to play right now anyway. So I got to wait. I had to wait 2 more years. And so it was kind of a great moment, but also kind of a, you know, wait and see moment.
You know, I just want to follow. You heard, obviously, what Rick had to say in terms of his own breakdown.
That I shouldn't have signed with San Antonio?
If you had to advise DeAndre Ayton, who most likely is going to go 1, what are you telling him, David, about dealing with the expectations about being a number 1 overall pick?
I mean, it's obviously a lot of pressure. And these guys are so young nowadays, you know. It's too much pressure to put on a young guy. I just tell him, relax, man. Don't expect too much. Get in there, get your feet under you. Expect it to take 4 or 5 years before you can hit your peak. So take your time, stride this out, because it can be stressful. If you let it, it'll get to you. I'll tell them, you know, don't worry about it, man. Just do your thing, do it a little at a time, and trust that you're going to get better and you're going to learn.
You know, David, first of all, I got to say, definitely a Hall of Fame player, but it was a Hall of Fame teammate for me to get a chance to play with David Robinson, and he got a chance for me to get a championship set.
That's right.
Looking back right now, you look at
the ball, or did he just jack it up?
He threw it up. He threw it up.
Okay.
No,
You're the one. You're the one.
But looking at DeAndre Ayton, and obviously from a physical standpoint, at the center position, he's pretty much put together, David.
Yeah.
What advice would you give him as far as being able to take care of your body, at the center spot? I know the game has changed. It's less physical. And also, the playing the game at the 5, would you talk to him about reaching out for different guys, being able to give him a little advice? And would you give him a little bit of advice on how you approached it?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell him that, you know, use the resources around you, man. There's a lot of guys that can help him kind of think through the process. I'd be running straight to Tim Duncan. I'd be like, Tim, do you have some time in the summertime? Can I spend a few minutes with you? Because, you know, Tim obviously did it for a long time. He maintained an extremely high level. And that's what a guy like DeAndre Ayton has to figure out. How do I extend this thing out? How do I get my body prepared? You know, a lot of these guys you look at now, they got people who feed them. They got all kinds of great routines to keep their body strong. And that's what these young guys are going to have to learn, because it's a huge jump, and you can tell, you know, from college to pro. It's no joke. All of a sudden you're playing 100, 110 games at twice the intensity you used to play in college. It's a big leap, and these guys aren't ready for it, especially at 18 or 19 years old. So you need to talk to somebody about that.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because we're talking about the 2 years that you took after you were a senior in college. You were a veritable old man by the time you got to the league. Can you imagine?
I wouldn't have even gotten drafted now.
I know, right? They would have found the warts in his game. I don't like the way he runs. But can you imagine what it would have been like for you to enter the league at 19?
Wow. I wouldn't have been ready. I mean, I grew 6 inches and gained about 60 pounds in my first 2 years, so I'd have been about 6'11", and I'd have been skinny as a rail. I'd probably been about 210 pounds. I wouldn't have been ready for that. So I'm glad I got a chance to mature physically and then get out of the college and then mature mentally for 2 years. Because, you know, this is a big leap mentally for these guys as well. Much more pressure, much more intensity. All of a sudden, you walk in the locker room and everybody's looking at you. And all the veterans are looking at you. And they're saying, are you going to lead us? Are you going to go out and do what you need to do tonight? That's tough.
David, your experience at Navy, you talked about growing physically.
Yeah.
How much of your native paint dominance did you get at Navy? How much did you learn the defensive side of things in college? Because a lot of these bigs in this draft don't have that native dominant mentality.
Yeah, you know, everybody now, all these guys want to go shoot jumpers, and they think their offense has to be so developed. But I tend to be the opposite mentality. I think you win championships because of defense. Don't be fooled, man. You look at Golden State, they defend. I mean, they get up in you. They got Green, who gets in there, Andre Iguodala. Those are two kind of defensive player of the year guys. And then, you know, they've got size in there. They get after you, and that's how you're going to win. I would tell all these young guys, man, you better get focused on that defensive side, because if you can't make a difference, why is Houston that much better than they used to be? Capella patrols that lane. Why is Utah outperforming what people thought they would? They've got Gobert in there protecting that paint. That is a key position for these teams if they really want to take that next step.
As we get ready here for the draft, just moments away from the first pick, of course, if you're just joining us, all-star, champion, member of our group, Steve Smith, the greatest mind in college basketball among whatever else he says on Twitter, Seth Davis, one of the great architects, formerly of the Cavaliers and Suns, and now architecting this set, which is more difficult than any team he ever ran, David Griffin, and of course the Admirals with us. I want to ask you guys, and I want to start with you, Griff, because comparisons are so often used when we read about the draft. One of the reasons it's great to have David here is you hear so many people, Smitty, talking about DeAndre Ayton and wondering, could he be the next guy? When you're in a war room, if you will, are you looking at comparisons that way, trying to play out and project the careers of the players?
I don't think in our situation we were looking at it projecting them to a player archetype, really. You do that earlier in the year. You do that before decision makers get out on the road. They'll ask their scouts that are bubbling everybody up, okay, so who's he a little bit like? Tell me about him, and what does he remind you of? But by the time you get to the draft situation, you're not talking about who they could be. You're talking about how do we develop them to be the best they're capable of being, and do we have the staff together here to get that out of them?
As we talk about DeAndre Ayton, who is the first pick overall, let's look at his new team and their outlook.
The Phoenix Suns finished last in the league with a dismal 21-61 record and missed the playoffs for the 8th straight season. But this offseason could mark the rising of the Suns. Armed with 4 draft picks, including #1 overall, Phoenix looks to add to their young core of Devin Booker and Josh Jackson. Booker is up for an extension, and the Suns will look to lock him up long-term. The Suns are bringing in long-term assistant Igor Kokoshkov as the new head coach.
The Phoenix Suns have selected DeAndre Ayton as expected. Seth, start with you. You watched him during last year. What did you see that projects out to a guy who can dominate at this level at some point?
I saw a guy who's just physically overpowering at the college level. 7'1", 250 pounds. The difference in his body from the early preseason practices to the end of the year was considerable. We can credit the Arizona strength coaches all we want, but the fact is this kid is a freak of nature for the first time really being in a big-time conditioning program. Got more assertive on the offensive end. Looks like a drop step, David. Looks like a guy I used to know. But just physically overpowering at the rim, showed the ability to step out, the steady improvement. I talked earlier about the fact that growing up in the Bahamas, he grew up playing soccer, came to the game relatively late compared to his American compatriots. This guy, as good and powerful and special as he is, I truly believe is just scratching the surface of what he's going to do in the NBA.
You know, Steph, what I love about him, here's a kid who, like, obviously you see his physique, but I love that he's a rim runner. He gets out and run, and when you have a big that can run, it helps those little guards to be able to navigate fast break or even different situations. Also like that he has, like you said, his soccer background. He has great feet. But what I love about him right here is he plays out of space. He can catch the basketball out of space, and he likes to be physical. He's okay with posting up, putting his body and hitting people. Then he's a quick jumper. He gets to the rim. And what I love is stuff like you said earlier. He is still learning. Obviously, he had the 1 year in Arizona. Basketball still shot. I think he has a chance to be one of those guys that can revolutionize this game with big on rebounding the basketball. Yeah. We talk about defense, and everybody wants to shoot the three. But you still got to rebound the basketball. He averaged 11, and I think that number can even go up higher in the NBA.
David, I saw you watching the video.
Yeah.
Break it down. What did you see there that you liked?
Big, strong body, aggressive, active. I mean, he's a can't-miss guy. He's going to play well. It's just a matter of when he's going to hit his stride. But that guy's a stud.
How much in your first couple of months at the NBA level were you shell-shocked a little bit by how different it was from even what you expected?
Oh, yeah, no, you get... From the get-go, you get shell-shocked, and just every night you don't get a night off. You know, for me it was Patrick Ewing one night, then the next night I'm playing against Hakeem Olajuwon, and then the next night I got Rick Smith. I mean, it just didn't get any easier. So that's going to be the challenge for him. But he's such a great athlete, and that's going to come through even more on the pro level. You get more space, get more opportunity to operate, and he's going to get better.
David, thanks for spending the first pick with us. We can't thank you enough. Two-time NBA champ and the Hall of Famer, David Robinson. So, the first pick...
5-0.
Yeah,
say like Avery, 5-0. Okay.
The first pick went to the Phoenix Suns. Before we get to the second pick, here's the state of the Sacramento Kings.
The Sacramento Kings have the longest playoff drought in the NBA, which currently stands at 12 seasons. The front office is run by General Manager Vlade Divac and new Assistant General Manager Peja Stojakovic. They're looking to position the team for postseason play. The former teammates will be highly focused on the upcoming draft, where the Kings have the number 2 selection, where they look to help build around a young core of De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and Willie Cauley-Stein. With nearly $38 million in cap space, the Kings could be in the mix for a max contract free agent. They would just need to find someone willing to play with young talent and the patience to help them develop.
All right, so the Sacramento Kings are up next in the 2 spot. Obviously, a lot of conversation about different players. Could be Marvin Bagley here, but from a standpoint of this team, Smitty, they've taken a lot of picks. We saw De'Aaron Fox last year, a lot of different picks over the years. Time for them to finally advance forward, no?
Yeah, I think so, and obviously they'll get another young guy in this draft, and they have some guys with a lot of talent, and then this talent needs a couple years, but I don't think the Sacramento Kings are looking to win now. Biggest thing for them, in my opinion, Sacramento Kings, you're going to have to start developing some of these guys and understanding they have to start this development where they are ready to carry some of this load. Did a nice job bringing a lot of those veterans in, Zach Randolph and Vince Carter. I think the Sacramento Kings right now, with some young guys, but I still think, in my opinion, go out and get you a veteran, another veteran, a little bit younger than Zach and Vince, to be able to play in the mix and also teach some of these guys.
All right, I hate to give the Duke on Duke love, but let's do it. Marvin Bagley, the pick at number 2, Seth. Why is that the right choice?
Well, he's arguably the most dominant freshman that Mike Krzyzewski's ever had, and that's saying quite a bit. Inside and out, you see there he made 23 three-pointers this year, shooting almost 40% from three-point range, 61% from the floor. So he was a volume scorer, but also an efficient scorer. He was great around the rim. I think that three-point shot, Griff, has got a chance to really get tightened up at the NBA level. I think he will be an NBA three-point shooter. I'm not going to say he's as good as Kevin Durant, because really who is, but he certainly has that same toolkit to him. Plus, he's a lefty, so he's a little bit unconventional. His maturity, his even keel, his toughness, he was at his best in the big games. And he wants to play in Sacramento. A lot of guys kind of running and hiding from that situation. He went in there, worked out, interviewed with them, made clear he wants to be a guy who can carry a franchise. And again, at the age of 19, he's just a puppy. He's going to get a lot better.
Well, he's got elite tools, and he has them genetically. Jumpin' Joe Caldwell's grandson, somebody that was an ASU alum, somebody who went to high school in Phoenix. People in Phoenix were really excited about the potential of Bagley at one point during the year as well, because they remember hearing about him from the time he was in 8th grade. This is an elite, special kid on the physical side of things, but he's also a kid who plays really hard. And he actually averaged 21 and 11. Not per 36 minutes, not per 40 minutes, he averaged a legit 21-11 in the ACC on a really good team, and that's meaningful. And teams that are investing in winning and trying to build around other young kids like Sacramento, this is a really good fit for a team like that.
One of the things that I love about Bagley is you think about character. I think it's important. I know you guys do as well. This is a guy who's got a lot of different things going with him in terms of talent. He raps as well. Will be working for Grammy Award-winning producer Ninth Wonder, but I like what he said here. He said, I can make music and try and connect with people across the world. That's my goal. You love when you hear a kid who gets it, as we like to say, before he even begins his professional career.
Yeah, you're totally right. And what I love about him, Seth, is he's probably the best second jumper in this draft. He's one guy that's quick to the ball, but also when he catches a great guy on his second jump, his first step is outstanding for that size. And what I love, he's slider built, but he's a wiry, strong guy. He plays through traffic. He loves to play, and I thought he could even average more at Duke, but he played to win. I never saw him really just asking for the basketball, being assertive, but that just shows he still averaged 21 points and 11 rebounds without asking for it. When you look at these plays, he understands spacing. There's some guys that you got to teach them different things. You said it, that three-point shot, he didn't take a lot, but I think he has the mechanics to be real good. And what I love is great feel, great jumper, and he attacks. He has all the tools right now that I think he's one of those guys, he can be a #1 option as a young guy.
I will say this, if there's one question about Marvin Bagley, it's his defense. A big reason why Duke played zone full-time towards the end of the year, and that's obviously not Mike Krzyzewski's first choice, was because of his defensive deficiencies. Wendell Carter, young guys having to play pick and roll in space. He's going to have to learn that at the NBA level. But again, when you're talking about his physical tools, there's no reason why he shouldn't be an outstanding NBA defender. He's got to learn, and most important, he's got to be committed.
All right, we get a chance to take a look at the outlook of the #3 team, the Atlanta Hawks.
The Atlanta Hawks missed the playoffs for the first time in 10 seasons. Hawks and head coach Mike Budenholzer agreed to mutually part ways in May, and Lloyd Pierce steps in as the new Hawks head coach to try and build through the process that he brings to Atlanta from Philadelphia. With 3 first-round picks in this year's draft, including #3 overall, the Hawks will try to develop their young talent and build for the future. The Hawks' leading scorer from last season, Dennis Schroeder, is owed $46.5 million over the next 3 seasons, but has stated his intentions to be traded.
All right, Luka Doncic, the pick for now for the Atlanta Hawks. We'll get to that in a second. I want to know about the player first, Griff. Give me what you like about Doncic at this level.
Well, again, we've talked about it all week. This is a guy who was as prolific as you can be at 19 years of age in EuroLeague competition. He's the EuroLeague MVP. There is no higher league outside of the NBA than EuroLeague, and he is the very best player in the league on a championship caliber team. That's a very, very rare thing. The NBA's never seen a player come into the league this accomplished from Europe. He can do a little bit of everything. He's totally different from the typical international player in that he really wants to do everything off the dribble. He's a step-back 3 guy. He's not a catch-and-shoot 3 guy. He's an incredibly versatile player in terms of his ability, a la James Harden, really. He's got a big midsection. He plays at his own pace. He's going to get into the center of the lane and make the pass over the top. Has really elite feel for that aspect of the game, but you're not going to rush him. You're not going to speed him up. So people really like that. And again, like all these kids we're talking about, he has a very long way to go on the defensive end, and his body has a long way to go. So people are excited about the here and now, and they're excited about the ceiling.
And again, I just love the fact that he's done it against men on the big stage with the bright lights with a lot at stake. A lot of these younger American players can't say that they've been able to do that. So he's somebody, because he's been so visible from such a young age, I think he's being picked apart a little bit since in this sort of pre-draft process. But look, being picked third in the NBA draft committee, obviously he's ticketed for, I think, superstardom in the league. In an era where offense reigns supreme, he has the perfect skill set to be a high-level success.
Yeah, and when you look at it, you're supposed to be picked apart when you're a high draft pick, and I think he would take it, like you said, being the 3rd pick. I love because he's fundamentally sound. When you start talking about a guy that can pass and dribble and has a good feel for the game, that's him. The only thing you're questioning right now is something that he can work on a little bit. He has to get in better shape. doesn't have a lot of foot speed, so that's the reason why we love to see him playing more of the 3-4 set out of the gates as a point guard. And if he holds true and he's going to Dallas, now we get the chance to see him because they already have Dennis Smith. You just have playmakers out there. They can play positionless basketball. What he can do is play the game the right way. He can find people, he can shoot it, and he has a big body.
Yeah, so fast, by the way, is he down the court, he could already be on the move in his career. That in a second. Let's talk about where we are on the 4th pick as we sit and we kind of wait where we're at right now. When you sit there and you look at Atlanta just from a team standpoint, though, for a second, what, Griff, is the main modus operandi? Is it to unload money and continue to clear, or are you more concerned with players that are part of your core? What's the dichotomy of how you do both in a parallel line when you're building a team?
Well, I think if you can do both in the same deal, you want to. Obviously, you'd like to lose money and continue to add elite pieces. I think what makes Atlanta's situation in terms of where they are in the rebuild process really unique, they don't have a single player that you can say is unequivocally untouchable that they're building around. So they don't have to worry about fit. They don't have to worry about whose minutes someone's taking. They need to take the person that's the highest variance in their mind, that has the potential to begin to lay the groundwork for what it means to be a member of the Atlanta Hawks. And that person can play almost any position. At the same time, you don't want to chase the action, try to get to one particular player and give away valuable cap space. You really want to work the other direction.
I want to ask you about Memphis, because a lot of talk throughout the course of the last couple of weeks about who would want to go to Memphis, and there's nothing wrong with the place or the city. The team right now has contracts in Conley and Gasol they'd like to move, Parsons, who they can't do anything with. Jaren Jackson gets talked about here in this spot, obviously, because he's a player who's at that level. You know the kid well. How does he match up with maybe the patience he'll need if he is the pick here at 4?
Well, first of all, he's been coached hard, and that's day one from his dad. And second time, he's been coached hard, so I think he'll be fine with the process wherever he goes. And if it's Memphis, which I think that'll be the pick for the Memphis Grizzlies, you have an outstanding developmental coach in J.B. Bickerstaff. And also, let's remember, they have hired Jerry Stackhouse, who's done a fantastic being able to have that communication with young guys. So I think if he does end up there, he has some guys that will help him in the coaching staff. Nothing wrong getting a chance to learn from Marc Gasol if he's still there and having the point guard Mike Conley. You having those two type veterans, that can bring a kid along much further.
The next group we look at, you know, obviously, and we're not breaking any Twitter now, we know that you're going to see Jackson at some point, Mo Bamba at some point. You still got bigs like Wendell Carter. We've got Trae Young. Why does Jackson stand out? What about him, Seth, and watching these players stands out to you?
Well, I think the word that comes to mind with him is versatility, and that's at both ends of the floor. First of all, he's as gifted a defender as I saw in college basketball this season. He's one of those big guys. He's a terrific shot blocker at the rim. He can guard a point guard potentially out on the perimeter, and he can really hedge out on those ball screens, which you're always asking big men to do. So even though he's built kind of slight, I think from day one, he's going to be a high-level NBA defensive player. He's going to probably be the youngest player drafted tonight. And for whatever odd reason, I've never quite figured this out, by the way, the NBA guys, they love the young ones because they feel like he has upside. When they get older, they feel like he can't grow as much as if a 21-year-old basketball player is a finished product. But I do think he showed enough skills offensively that versatility is going to come to the fore. It's a question of how hard is he going to work, how much is he going to improve, and how much of a killer can he be?
Well, and I think it's also, if you're 22 years of age and you're Tim Duncan, it's a sliding scale. We're going to really like you. But if you're going to be somebody who has a lot of work to do, a jack of all trades and a master of none, be this body type, be 18.7 years of age, and come from a tough family background, a dad who was about it, and a coach who was about it.
Let's take a closer look at the Memphis Grizzlies.
After missing the playoffs for the first time since the 2009-10 season, the Memphis Grizzlies find themselves in a position no franchise would seemingly ask for. A roster that is over the salary cap and finished with the second worst record in the league. After a disappointing draft lottery that landed the Grizzlies in the number 4 position, Memphis must decide how to best handle the future of their two superstars, Marc Gasol and Mike Conley. The almost $90 million tied up in Conley, Gasol, and Chandler Parsons make any major move in free agency near impossible. Will the team find a way to bring back Tyreek Evans, who was a surprising success last season? Or can Memphis hope that good health for their best players, plus a full season of head coach J.B. Bickerstaff, will be good enough to put themselves back in the top 8 of the Western Conference?
All right, so as expected, Jared Jackson Jr. is the pick for the Memphis Grizzlies. Single-season Michigan State record. You didn't have this one, Smitty. 106 blocked shots. Tied the single-game record of 8. You didn't have that one either. Sorry, Smitty. But since it's Sparty, go ahead. Give him some love.
Well, what you're going to love about him is a kid that's an extremely hard worker. We all know his timing and blocking shots, and sometimes you're a guy that can block shots, but he has great timing.
All right, timing here for a tweet. Were we supposed to get those? Here's Woj. Atlanta and Dallas have agreed to a deal. This is not a deal many expected. Luka Doncic on his way to Dallas. It's a conditional 2019 pick, first-round pick, protected, going the other way. By the way, you want to talk about getting thrown into it? I know Vincenity down on the end used to pressure, so I'm throwing right to you. Can you explain to me why the Atlanta Hawks would trade down to take Trae Young, maybe the biggest question mark in the lottery?
I don't know. I mean, that's Mark Cuban. I mean, he's had success with European players by a gentleman by the name of Dirk Nowitzki, but you know, there's been reports, obviously, with them trying to move Schroeder, but I don't know. I mean, you have a wonderful player that you're trading down for. Maybe they know what they're doing.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because we got a guy who knows what he's doing. Obviously, 5th overall pick, future Hall of Famer, although he's still playing, which is making Smitty feel like he should have been. When did you retire?
When I was supposed to. Vincent still should be playing.
Grip, let me ask you about this, and I want to go on down the line. The Atlanta Hawks seem to have different thoughts in their hierarchy. You would figure, based on what you hear, maybe at the top one out here, in what I think many are going to have a problem with this decision, no?
Well, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The top always wins out. And what we heard throughout this process was that there was a split. Coaching, front office, ownership may have all had a different dog in the fight. And if that's true, and ownership selection is Trae Young, and that's a feeling that they had, that they were very strong about, this is a brilliant move on the part of Travis Schlenk to move down, get the player that you wanted anyway, in theory, add an asset to the stockpile while you're in the process of rebuilding. Atlanta, unlike a lot of other lottery teams, can't afford to give Trae the level of ball dominance he needs and let him figure it out on the fly. So this is a situation where ownership's always going to win. But what he did, and Travis Schlenk and his staff did in this deal, was they took lemons and they made lemonade. And you have to believe that this is an opportunity for both sides, because Dallas is going to be thrilled with the Luka Doncic.
Yes, and Grip, I have to ask this question, though. You sat in that seat right now. You have a point guard in Trae Young who's coming over, and you have a Schroeder who asked for a trade, and obviously players change. How hard is that for a GM now, finding a team to take Dennis Schroeder when, per se, they know you're trying to move him now, and you've selected another point guard?
Well, I think in the case of Dennis, it's not a secret that they were trying to shop Dennis anyway.
Right.
So I don't think they found a taker prior to this.
Right.
So what you don't do, I think, and again, Travis should get a lot of credit for this, you don't compound your problem by making another mistake potentially to avoid it. So I think what he did was do what he absolutely needed to do, get value where he could to take Trae where he needed to and not overstep his bounds and take him earlier, really, than would have made sense.
But would you all agree that now with Trae Young being a smaller point guard, you're going to have to get some size? I think you're going to have to get some size at the 2 positions, and you're going to have a big man that can protect the rim. Because after a while, when you're playing the Russell Westbrooks of the world and the big point guards are going to post you up, you're going to need somebody to be able to protect the rim with the smaller guard. Obviously, he has an opportunity to prove himself, but as of right now, they're going to need some more size.
Here's what, speaking of size, gets lost in this. If I was going to ask you, Smitty Grip, what do we know is the mantra of the Orlando Magic ownership? What's the word that you think of when you think about how they run their team? What are they looking for?
Ownership? Yeah, not ownership. Their front office is all about this. Yeah, their ownership was a different answer, probably.
That Mo Bamba, who some people believe that we've all talked to could be the best player in this draft, is now going to slide. Can anybody be happier than Orlando? He's going to go at, you would figure he's going to be the pick at 6.
Well, you're talking about Jeff Weltman and John Hammond, who everywhere they've been, going back to Jeff's days with the Clippers when John was there, they've been together several different places. Jeff is in the #1 chair now, supported by John. What they like above all things is what they did in Milwaukee. It's length and athleticism. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? It's get long, Thon Maker. Get guys that are athletes. Sprinkle in the basketball players later. Half man, half amazing would have worked very well there, right? It's important to them to have that length and that athleticism. They will figure out the skill set pieces later. They took a player last year that played very little, but has enormous upside in a kid that I loved in last year's draft, Jonathan Isaac.
Yes.
So they're going to have him almost like a second draft pick for this year. He didn't even really get a chance to show what he can do. So you put him in there now, you put Bombay in there, and you've got a team that starts to look very elite, at least in length.
But I also think with the maturation process, I know they want to win sometime soon. You have to sprinkle in some veterans with all of that length and talent, and to kind of really mold it all together to get back to their winning ways. And I think now you've done the job. You're going to probably get Mo Bamba. Now it's time to get some veterans that can kind of help these guys and really bring their talent out to get back to their winning ways.
And I'm what Vince's point is, because I think a lot of times, sometimes when you have so many young guys that are playing the same position, now they have Vucevic, right? They have, if we say they're going with Bamba, you have Jonathan Isaac, you still have Bismack Biyombo.
Right.
So you have so many young guys that are 4s and 5s. They are not comfortable. Veterans are comfortable in saying whether they start or sit. Orlando's going to have to move some of these pieces, and to Vince's point, I'm totally agree. You got to start bringing in some veterans. Coaches do a great job, but veterans help you police that locker room.
You have to start sprinkling veterans, but it's really important that you don't do it too soon or extend yourself financially with those veterans either. Because if you bring guys in that actually really need to play or need the ball in a way that those kids can't benefit from, that's important to avoid. So the fit of those veterans is really important, and the length of contract when you're trying to build from the bottom is also really important.
I'm saying 2-year deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm saying a 2-year deal. Maybe not a veteran that wants the big money, but you have to bring in someone to help. You can't just throw these guys in. I'm sorry. Like I come from the old school where you have to earn it. You need to learn it before you get out there, instead of throwing these guys out there and having them play, and in 2 years you're still in the same position. So I think now you're getting veterans like, you know, one of my things I'm a stickler for, yeah, you throwing these guys out there. Well, my job, I felt as a veteran, was pulling these guys aside, and we're going to go and we'll work on some skills. You know, yes, you're thrown in the fire, so everything happens so fast because they're trying to figure out the game. But at the same time, our job as veterans are, hey, let's pull these guys aside. Let's work with some footwork. Let's work with some skill work, you know, to kind of move them along, and hopefully it
I want to, let me jump, if I can, just because we're about to get the next pick. We're going to talk a lot more about Trae Young, I'm sure, later in the show. But just going around, any doubt in your mind that Colin Sexton, who's yet to be drafted, will be a better NBA point guard than Trae Young?
You know, because I think it's always a fit. I love Colin Sexton because I think he's more NBA ready now. But also, the one thing about Trae Young, let's not look at his size so much. He is what he is. Yep. But at that size, he led college basketball in scoring and assists. You got to at least give him a chance.
Any doubt in your mind?
He's got a chance to be a very good NBA player, Trae Young. They're putting a lot on this kid. They're picking him 4th in the draft, which I thought was a little bit too high, giving up somebody like Luka Doncic. You're putting your whole franchise on the shoulders of a guy that I'm not sure is going to be a highly successful NBA player. I think he's a pro. He had a great season. I think this is way, way too much to put on Trae Young. I don't think he's ready for it. I think it's a big mistake.
But there again, it goes back to the case. Now it's imperative to have a veteran in his corner, because all of the pressure is going to be on him. Now all of the pressure, he has to hear it in the city. He has to read it. We talk about it on air all the time. So now you have that veteran to say, hey, okay, stop reading your clipping, get off of social media, let's get in the gym and work and fix the problem.
All right, no problem here. At least we got this one right. And I didn't even have to look at Twitter, which was supposed to be broken. It isn't. Mo Bamba is the pick. Obviously, Seth, a lot to like about him. break down for us what you saw during his year last year at UT.
Well, only a 7-foot 10-inch wingspan. He's a veritable pterodactyl, what he measured out at the combine. So right away, from day one, he'll be one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. He showed the ability to get out and make some baskets. Obviously, offense is not going to be his strength. I kind of like the Joel Embiid comparisons. Super kid. Could have gone to an Ivy League school even if he wasn't a basketball player. Highly intelligent, high character kid. I actually heard some chatter from NBA scouts a little concerned that he might be too smart and have too many interests. Does he really love the game, or does he just play it because he's big? But you want to talk about upside, Smitty. I mean, as much upside as any player in this draft. And I'm sorry, the idea that a team would select someone like Trae Young ahead of someone like Mo Bamba, I just don't get it.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And then let's go to Mo Bamba. Here's a kid that has an unbelievable wingspan. He also has great footwork. What I love is he's been working in the gym. He's worked on his shot, and he didn't have bad mechanics. What I love for him is, yes, there's a lot of bigs that can block shots, but he has great timing, and he wants to dominate on the defensive side. Size is going to be a factor. Coming in this league right now, he has to get stronger. He won't get stronger overnight, but he rebounds the basketball at a high point. That means he goes and gets it. Now he has to find a way to be able to keep the defense honest, being able to throw the ball to him, to be able to grab shots, to be able to have at least a jump hook. But with that length and his passion of the game, he's from Harlem. He's played a lot of basketball, and just talking to him, he loves the game. And like you said, he still can have other interests and still be dominant on the court.
So the point Vince made is a really good one about you have to get in the gym and work. I saw Mo Bamba come further in 2.5 months under Drew Hanlon in Los Angeles, working on skill set than any big man I've ever seen in that span. It is remarkable the amount of work he put in on his offensive game. He has a little bit of a post game now. The turnaround jumper's nice and high. His release point's very consistent on his jump shot. It's going to come down to a large degree, and in some of those highlights we saw it, he's not sitting and sliding right now, and he's not going to defend in space. He's going to need a veteran like you to help him with that as well. As Vince's agent, I'd like to get him shooting threes in Orlando.
Yes, I mean, he definitely has to utilize his athleticism, and as he picks up the game, everything else will fall into place. I think just getting comfortable offensively is one thing, working on that game and the skills in the gym. Now when you put it on the real NBA court, that's when we kind of see what it is. So it's just repetition. You've already built the base work, and now he's feeling confident and comfortable about it. He continues that. Offensively, if he continues to block shots and run the floor and get easy baskets, it makes everything else feel a lot easier.
One thing I know that you'd love to hear as a GM, Vince would love to hear as a veteran, Bamba went to Shaka Smart during the season and asked him, please be harder on me.
I love it.
When asked why, he said, quote, guys don't leave college saying, I wish my coach wasn't harder on me. They say, I wish he was harder. I wasn't going to make that mistake.
That's awesome.
That's the kind of guy you want on your team,
awesome.
no?
Yeah, you do. And I'm going to still go back to Vince's point and my point. He went to Shaka Smart. In the NBA, coaches are coaching. Where does he go if a coaching staff is not on him? You need somebody on the end of the bench to say, how do I play pick and roll? Assistant coaches can't always do it. You got to have some veterans or some young guys willing to do that. I don't know if Orlando right now has somebody to help him. They need to get somebody quickly.
And it'll take some time for that to develop, especially the feel. I think the speed of the game offensively is going to probably be his biggest adjustment coming from college. Obviously, physically, he was so overpoweringly dominant in college. That's not going to be the case of the NBA. So if you're looking for good offensive production and feel for him out of the gate, I think you need to show some patience. But defensively, he's ready from day one.
Me personally, offensively for him, I'm saying it's the mentality first. Your mentality, use your athleticism, attack the rim every time, dunk the ball, get fouled, get free throws, and then you work your way out from there. Yeah, preseason, I love preseason, and we talk about it, you know, back in the day it was like 12 games, seems like. Now it's only like 4 games or something, but it's important for these young guys to work on their new skill. And I think preseason is going to help these young guys kind of spread their wings. Hey, see all the work you put in the gym, let's see what it does right now. And if not, we already know you can defend and you can be athlete.
You can always send him to Summer League where you can get our coverage live on NBA TV. Let's take a look at a tweet. Speaking of which, here's our own DA who tweets out, you can count the Magic as beyond stunned and thrilled that he fell to them at 6. I'm stunned that he fell to them at 6. Are you?
Not really, because of what the other teams I thought would do has played out. Talent-wise, yes, I thought he should have went higher, but looking at the teams in front of him, kind of figured those were where they were going as far as pick and selection, because what I was hearing, that's what some of those teams wanted.
Let me ask you this, Chicago Bulls, they're on the clock, which means our head researcher, Kevin Cottrell, right now isn't breathing somewhere in our studios in Atlanta. Do I even bring up the name Porter because of the ceiling here or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a name that makes some sense here because they have the opportunity to let other young kids grow right now and take the time to develop Michael Porter in the way that would be best for his body. If he's not really going to be ready by January, Chicago can wait. They can take that chance because they have other elite young assets that they need to bring along anyway. So this is a really unique fit potentially for Chicago. They also have multiple other first-round picks. So there may be somebody more tailor-made and more ready for the here and now that they can take later. But this is an upside play. It's very rare you get a chance to take a guy who was the #1 high school player in the country 1 year ago.
Is it clear, Seth, when you look at Bridges and Wendell Carter, Sexton, some of the other picks that you look at now, they have Chris Dunn, so the point guard spot seems to be solidified. Clear to you then that Porter's the play because of the ceiling?
I don't think he's a bad pick here. It's just a risk. And, you know, you have to trust your medical staff. You have to trust your instincts. Clearly, his ceiling is very high in terms of scoring the basketball. That's what he's going to be able to do at a very high level in the NBA. But the question is whether or not his back is going to hold up in the long term. And to Griff's point, if you have the luxury of waiting for the long term, certainly you want to do what's best for him physically as opposed to having to rush him into the fray if maybe he's not ready. He's had an issue with his hip over the last week or so. Had to cancel some workouts. Is it related to the back? Is part of his hip compensating for what's happening in the back? Remember when he first had the injury in the first game of the season, he felt the pain in his hip. Now, it turned out that that was from his herniated disc, and that was nerve pain that was radiating down. So to me, that's why I'm glad I'm sitting here with you and not actually having to live with the consequence of these decisions, because Michael Porter Jr. to me is the one player in this draft you're afraid to take him and you're afraid to pass on him. So we'll see.
Let me ask you this, Vince, as the Chicago Bulls take Wendell Carter Jr., he's their pick. Play against this team this year, you look at Markkanen, you look at Dunn, you think about Zach LaVine, now maybe a guy in the middle to add to that group. How much were you impressed by what you saw on the floor with Chicago?
They're young, but they're athletic, and they play well, and they've done a great job of just they're learning, and they're fearless. And I think you add a guy like Wendell Carter, who is a big body, who can score in the post, who can protect the rim. If you can get that from him, you bring him along with the maturation of the younger guys you already have. They have a chance. They definitely have a chance in the East.
I just love hearing you wax poetic about a Duke player. Seth?
We're on air.
How about Carter? Tell me why Carter maybe shouldn't be a surprise pick, Seth, here at 7.
Well, I mean, anybody who's watched him play wouldn't be surprised by that. Certainly wouldn't be surprised by him having a successful NBA career for a number of years. Very, very skilled, fundamentally sound, good shooter, excellent footwork. He can drop step it. He can step out. He's a good passer. He rebounds. He does everything you want. He's not as flashy as Marvin Bagley. Didn't have quite the same responsibilities as Grayson Allen, but I don't know that I would call him a complimentary player at Duke. He was a bona fide star at Duke. They're one of the best teams all season long, and you know, as long as he's healthy, I think he's set for a very long and prosperous NBA career.
Well, this is not unlike Joakim Noah playing with Al Horford. And Al's all about substance over style, and Joe's all about flash. And he's the one who's running. He's the athlete. And you've got Wendell Carter being the dribble, pass, and shoot glue guy in that lineup. And I think it's very similar player types. Casey asked earlier, are you looking at names for who somebody might be? This is the first player since Al Horford that I looked at as a big man that was literally the best player on his roster in college, dribble, pass, and shoot, make decisions. That's a very rare gift for a big player to have. I love this pick for Chicago. Understand all of the points you made on Porter as well. This is a really, really good pick for these guys.
Well, great for me as I've been knowing this kid because he's from Atlanta for so long. I've been close to this kid. He plays like a veteran. And when I say this, he understood the situation in Duke that I wasn't going to be the first option, you know, for scoring the basketball. That was going to be Bagley. That was going to be Grayson Allen. But I can still make my presence on the defensive end because of the skill set and mindset he has. Been around him. I love that he understands this. I'm going to do whatever it takes for our team to be successful. And I think for the Chicago Bulls, you have a kid that's going to rebound, and that's going to block shots, and that's going to control the paint. But I don't know of America has got a chance to see him when I got a chance to see him play in high school, where he was that first option where he can go get it on the glass and score the basketball when his back to the basket and face up. He has a pretty good jump shot of mechanics. He's going to be better than advertised, and I think people saw him at Duke.
At one bicep, he has fear tattooed. On the other, he has none. I'm going to go with fear with the Cavaliers because they're next on the clock.
Wow, how about that segue? Are you kidding me?
I was waiting for you. I didn't know where you were going, Casey. But I liked it.
There you go. Game recognizes game. So should I ask you now, Vince, where LeBron's going to play?
Oh, man. He will be playing next year.
Okay, fair enough.
And I don't know. That's just a tough decision. And I know for Cleveland, you know, they need to know something because you have to figure out where you want to go. But at the same time, if you get enough young talent to add to what they have, maybe it's enough to keep them. I don't know. I just don't think it's enough.
So to the point you were making relative to the draft part of this, I think with Young off the board and Carter off the board, it's very likely that the Cavaliers are going to look at Colin Sexton. I think it's a player who can give them a ball-dominant play creator, either with or without LeBron.
And he's ready now.
And he's ready to compete right now on both ends of the floor. He was a spectacular interview for every team he met with. He has on a spectacular coat tonight. So I do hope that wine jacket is somehow a precursor of things to come.
Vince, thank you so much for spending a few with us, man.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate it, bro.
How many more years, Vince, you playing?
One.
Just one?
Just one?
Where are you? One.
Just one?
Just one.
That's it.
I'm disappointed. I want you to go to 45. I want you to go to 45.
I don't think the body will allow.
Tom Brady says he can play to 45.
I don't believe it.
Hey, he's half man, half amazing. We don't want him to be half man, half arthritic.
Yeah, one.
That's a pretty good run. I think you've had a pretty good run.
Yeah, it's a pretty good run.
One more run for
one more.
Vince.
There you
go. We sit here, Smitty, and we get ready now for the Cavaliers pick. How difficult is it because of what Griff said? The unknown. They don't really have an answer from LeBron. They don't know how to handle the draft.
No, I think the one thing is they got to go and they got to obviously pick a kid that can be both with LeBron and without LeBron, and that's Colin Sexton to me. Because, yes, he will be a guy that will get out and guard the point guard. Doesn't have to have the basketball in his hand, but you can throw it in hand if you're LeBron. And he also a kid, if LeBron is not there, he can play 3-on-5. He doesn't care about that.
That's right. All right, grip the pillow tight. Here's the state of the Cavs.
All hail King James. LeBron James led the Cleveland Cavaliers to do what many said was impossible. A fourth straight NBA Finals. In the span of one season, the Cavs traded away Kyrie Irving, struggled through losing streaks, completely revamped their roster mid-season, and survived 2 7-game series during the playoffs. The miracle of Believeland ended in the finals, where they were swept by the dynastic Golden State Warriors. Now the question of the summer is, will LeBron stay in Cleveland? Rumors continuously swirl that LeBron will once again take his talents elsewhere once free agency begins on July 1st. The Cavs had the 8th overall pick, with plenty of questions on how to use it. Trade it away for an established player who could help LeBron, or draft a young player who kicks off the rebuild if LeBron leaves.
All right, so Colin Sexton, as we expected, might be the pick of the Cleveland Cavaliers because of the fact that he can be that ball dominant, that guard. We know playing for Avery Johnson, how tough he needs to be for that. We've discussed Sexton a lot. We'll get more into him in a bit. But got to bring up what's happening here and bring the fans in because a "We Want Porter" chant very loudly broke out here in this arena. I got to go around, and I'm being a little selfish here, clearly, but I got to go around. Griff, Porzingis is hurt. The Knicks last year's pick wasn't accepted very well. Can you take the risk of Porter? Do you have to take the risk of Porter?
It all depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. When Sam Hinkie was in Philadelphia, trust the process meant that you took Joel Embiid, who was going to be injured for 2 full years before he was able to really play. You took Dario Saric, who didn't come over from Europe for 2 years before he was impactful. You can invest in the high variance assets, and you can believe in them over the long haul if you have that kind of continuity and stability in the front office. If they make that pick If they make the Michael Porter pick, that is a sign of continuity and stability in the Knicks organization and an awareness that the best of their future lies a couple years in front of them.
So he just said continuity and stability and Knicks all in the same sentence. That might be a TV first here the last few years. Again, I don't have to live with the consequences of these decisions. At this stage of the draft, I think Michael Porter Jr. is too big of a risk. You have a player out there like Kevin Knox at Kentucky, a very, very similar makeup, similar body type, similar athleticism. He's not as good creatively off the bounce, I would say, as Michael Porter, but on the flip side, he also hasn't had a back disc operated on. To me, I think Kevin Knox would be the safer pick for the Knicks.
Yeah, and I'm with both guys. I mean, we understand Michael Porter Jr. and all the fans out there. He's one of the top talented players before injury. We just I don't have information on what's the severity of his injury. And all these teams have this medical. And if he doesn't get drafted by the Knicks, to me, that's saying there's something really wrong with Michael Porter Jr.'s back, where somebody might not say he's not going to ever play again, that they're just looking immediately right now that he's not being able to help their team now. Hopefully for this kid, if wherever he's drafted, he gets healthy, he has talent enough to become the best player in this draft. But if I'm the New York Knicks, I think right now they might be looking elsewhere other than Michael Porter.
And to be clear, I'm not saying I think they make this pick, and I'm not saying they should make this pick. I'm saying if they took Michael Porter, that's why they would do it. The one most important thing that you can do as an organization is know whether or not your medical staff has the ability to get this kid where he needs to go. Dallas has a guy by the name of Casey Smith. We talked about it on the mock draft show. He's worked with backs on Steve Nash, Boris Diaw. He's kept guys in elite condition. Dallas knows they could take a flyer at this. New York may or may not feel comfortable taking that risk based on all of those things as well. So certainly Kevin Knox makes a lot of sense if you're looking for a guy that you can plug and play a little sooner.
Well, obviously, first of all, a couple of things. Interesting, the team with the process is the team behind them. So if they're so used to the maybe they would go again, even though I don't think they would. 3 players I think you watch. Knox, because I know the Knicks fell in love with him. Porter, the other one is maybe the safest pick for them, which is Mikal Bridges. Comes from a great program. He's NBA ready in terms of he can defend. He could shoot 90% plus from the line set. Maybe the safe pick here.
Or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander also on the board. There are, listen,
they have enough 6'6" point guards.
That's a fair point. There are a lot safer picks in this draft than Michael Porter. That's the bottom line. I'm not privy to all the medicals. It sounded like, from what we've been hearing, that they're kind of all over the board. Some teams are more convinced than others. If it's a matter of hiring a great back specialist, when you draft him, go hire the best in the business. You know, don't spare any expense on that. Part of the problem with Michael Porter is, you know, if you want to wait for him to get healthy, you want to wait for him to play well. I think his problems, if he does have a back issue, could develop down the road. In other words, he's one of these guys who might have a good couple of years as a young player. Will his back hold up over the long term? But you're saying you got to wait for him to get into the mix to get healthy. Just a lot of question marks.
Let me tell you something, and I know this. Knicks fans are tough to please, but they passed up Ron Artest, who played at St. John's, to draft Frederick Weiss. Go look him up on Google. Michael Sweetney.
This man jumped right over him.
I was going to say, it's too bad Vince isn't here for that mention.
Frank Ntilikina, and then they're thinking about Donovan Mitchell, whose dad works in New York and Queens with the New York Mets. Be very interesting to see the reaction to this pick, but an important pick for a team that needs credibility at this time,
But
correct?
you also booed Porzingis as well.
No, I didn't.
No, I'm just saying Knicks fans. I didn't say you.
True.
But so they did.
I'm a professional. We're about to find out who the Knicks pick. If you're just joining us, already one trade. Luka Doncic from 3 down to 5 to the Mavericks. Trae Young, very surprising, all the way up to the Atlanta Hawks. Meanwhile, the New York Knicks getting ready to make their selection, coming in at number 9. And it is Kentucky's Kevin Knox.
And the Knicks fans booed no matter what.
The Knicks fans, they wanted to hide in Fort Knox. Here's Trey Kirby.
I'm here with some Knicks fans who were chanting Michael Porter seconds before the pick. What do you guys think?
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I can't believe they did this.
People were fired up about Kevin Knox pre-draft.
I mean, he could be a good player, but I feel like Michael Porter's a can't miss.
What are you feeling?
I'm a little disappointed. I mean, Kevin Knox is a great player, but I really have my heart set on Michael Porter, man.
All right, Knox, though, pretty close to Knicks. Got to feel all right.
I can't be a Knicks fan anymore. I'm done. I'm done with the team. Ownership is terrible. Just terrible team. You had the best player in the draft at 9, and you just passed on it. It's unbelievable.
You can't make Knicks fans happy, but I think that was the proper reaction that we were looking for. Back to you guys.
I just love how this is a Knicks fan who stayed after they drafted Ntilikina, picked up Moutier, and gave Ron Baker a 2-year deal. Yet now he's done.
Now he's done.
Because of Kevin Knox.
This was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Let's talk about a really good player and a great shooter in Kevin Knox.
Scored 34 points at West Virginia. Nobody does that. He showed that he has the ability to score at a very high level. He's a little bit soft. He's not exactly as competitive as you want him to be all the time. Played on a team with a lot of really good players. I think sometimes look to blend a little bit too much. Needs to be more competitive on the defensive end. Next to Jaren Jackson, though, he's going to be the second youngest player selected in the first round. He has great genetics, comes from a family of great athletes. I think that he is very similar to Michael Porter, as I said, in terms of his body type and his scoring ability. He has not had his back operated on as a young teenager. And so I think if you're the Knicks, this was the smart pick.
You know, I like him. I mean, you don't have a lot of guys 6'9", that can take the basketball off the rebound and push it. You don't have a lot of guys that can play without the basketball and play smaller. Then also he can play bigger. I really love this pick. I like the way Kevin Knox at the end of the year started to have some of that confidence. He's young, very young, probably the second youngest guy, like you said, in Jaren Jackson. Give him a couple of years, Knicks fans. I know you wanted Michael Porter Jr. You're never happy, but you got a fantastic player, in my opinion, in Kevin Knox.
So what they're going to need to do is wait for him to extend his shooting range.
Yep.
He takes too many contested twos right now. He settles for that a little bit. He has a defensive versatility and body type, but he doesn't really apply it consistently. What you hope is that this is a player that can guard 3 and 4. He has a little bit of a Tobias Harris-like hybrid game. You can be really excited about where he can end up. You're just going to have to give him the time to work on those things he can't do. But his jump shot is plug and play at some range, and as he extends his range and starts to take even more efficient shots, I think Knicks fans are going to very much rue the day they booed this young man, to quote Cotton Fitzsimmons.
All right, let's talk about the day. And look, the time period over the last few weeks for the Philadelphia 76ers has been very strange. I mean, there's been a lot that's gone on after everything was all the way going this direction because of where the process, Smitty, had led us. Now let's look at where the process has come. They may woo LeBron. They're going to have money to spend elsewhere. Where do they look in the draft? Would they consider a Porter? Do you look at a Mikal Bridges, 3-and-D, maybe a 2-3 there who could fill some of that Redick role? What do you see here?
You know, I think for them is obviously everybody wants LeBron. But I think if you're selecting right now, tonight, and we will have it right now, Mikal Bridges is the pick for me. He's a kid that understands how to win. He understands the process. He can defend, and also he can shoot the 3. But he also is very good without the basketball in his hands. And if he's at Philly, the ball will be in Ben Simmons' hands, the ball will be in Markelle Fultz's hand, and also Joel Embiid. On a double team, you kick out to him. I think he can make that play and make shots.
Well, this is a place where you might be a little bit tempted on a Michael Porter, because when you talk about a Mikal Bridges, I'm not sure that I see him as having the same type of an upside that I would have seen in the Kevin Knox. So I can see the temptation there. But again, given what Philadelphia has right now, maybe you don't want another ball-dominant scoring type. So Mikal Bridges fits in well there. Again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's on the board. He's a guy I don't necessarily see as a pure point guard. I know that he's slotted as a point guard right now, but I see him as more of a combo guard, facilitator, and a versatile player. But Mikal Bridges, obviously the local angle. We know his mom works for that organization. I think he'd be a safe pick, maybe not a scintillating pick, but a solid player.
Well, and I think if you look at Mikal, he starts to fit something that's become a really important phrase. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's also completely over himself. He's selfless. He's about winning. He played for an organization, quite frankly, at Villanova and a head coach at Jay Wright that is about all of the right things. And when you're Philadelphia, you've been all about the process this long. You want to start to plug and play guys that are 21.7 years of age, that are ready to make an impact tomorrow in that lineup, that know how to play on both sides of the floor. This is no longer, let's take the longest runway, the highest ceiling. This is, let's take a guy whose floor is not very far down, whose ceiling may not be that high, but I know he's going to take and make playoff caliber shots next year, and he's going to defend at a playoff level for me.
All right, it is time to look at the state of a team that has been the process to be trusted, the Philadelphia 76ers.
The 76ers were one of the biggest surprises in the NBA this past season, winning 52 games and making it to the second round of the playoffs. It was Philly's most successful season since the Allen Iverson-led squad reached the NBA Finals in 2001. The Sixers have perhaps the brightest future of any NBA team. What with 2 young stars, up to $25 million in cap space, and 6 picks in this year's draft. Still, 3-point specialists, J.J. Redick and Marco Bellinelli, are unrestricted free agents, and the team desperately needs an athletic wing. Perhaps Philly will get in on the LeBron James sweepstakes.
All right, the pick, as expected, is Mikal Bridges. If you like the way he shoots free throws, and he's pretty darn good at them, you can thank his mom, who every time he missed a free throw as a kid made him drop wherever he was and give her 10 push-ups.
I like that. I like Mom. Hey, Mom.
Didn't always have to do that for Mom? Casey, you do that for your mom?
No, only when I didn't take out the garbage.
I told you he's about all the right things.
For Bridges, when you're a team, Griff, that gets to the point the Sixers are, how much more now as versus to where you were a few years ago can you look at fit for your process versus just taking maybe the guy who's got the highest ceiling, which they had to do in the past?
So Philadelphia, and I love the segment we just showed on them, talking about where they're really at. Philadelphia and Boston are in very similar situations. They have incredibly young teams. They have incredibly accomplished teams. They have exceptional coaches, and fit is going to become an enormous part of everything that they're going to do. But they're also in a situation, because of the $25 million in cap space and the potential to make more, they're one of those teams we talked about, and Eric Pincus was with us earlier talking about the Lakers situation. Philadelphia can't dream big enough. So what you do, you draft Bridges, who you know is going to play, and then you continue to work the angle of, if we can sprinkle in other elite talent with all of that cap space we have, Mikal's going to be a valuable rotation piece for us. And if we can't, we may have a starting job for Mikal. This is a great pick no matter which way things fall. It protects their downside, and it really gives them a phenomenal chance at having a great 3-and-D rotation.
From a phenomenal chance to a phenomenal member of our rotation, back with the Peoples. Here's Trey Kirby. Trey?
I'm here, guys, with a bunch of Villanova fans. Guys, Mikal Bridges staying with the Sixers, staying local. Got to be happy about that.
Got to be happy, but as a couple of Knicks fans over here, I think the Knicks made a big mistake in passing on him, I have to be honest with you.
So what is Philadelphia getting with Bridges then that New York's obviously missing out on?
A raw, athletic, talented, great shooter. Going to be a great project, and a 2-time champion.
Y'all think that winner mentality means something coming up to the pros?
The Knicks needed it. The Knicks really needed it. They could have had a 2-time champion, and they passed it.
Well, even Villanova fans are killing the Knicks. It's brutal out here, guys.
I'll tell you what.
When in doubt, kill the Knicks. It's
right?
good
I
TV.
mean, you would think that the Knicks had actually let the time run out and not scored like JR. I mean, this is the kind of this being in Cleveland for this is some serious reaction. Regardless of what the Knicks did or didn't do, they get Knox, very good player. Sixers, they get Bridges, really good player. Here come the Charlotte Hornets, who made an interesting play yesterday as they. I mean, I don't. Mitch and Mozgov. I mean, that's got to be a show at some point, Griff. That's coming up soon. Is Mozgov on his way back to Mitch Kupchak again? Now with Charlotte, they move Howard off here, who doesn't look like he'll stay here in Brooklyn. Much ado now with the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. You know, you've seen so much talk about the possibility that Kemba Walker gets traded. It'd be really interesting to me if at this pick Charlotte goes Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a guy who can play point, who's very serpentine, who's very long. He's herky-jerky. He's got like a stop-start game that's very crafty. Not like a lot of college kids. He's not all about ooh-and-ah athleticism. He has some craft to his game, and he would be a really interesting fit either with or without Kemba, because you could envision a situation where you just cut Kemba loose to go get buckets late in a game and use Shai to set people up, somewhat like Toronto did with Fred VanVleet setting up Kyle Lowry to get shots. I think this could be an interesting pick for Charlotte. Were they able to do it?
I want to follow with you, Griff, if I can, and go back a second to Cleveland, because something to note is that Kemba Walker, part of the talks of him moving, a lot of interest from the Cleveland side. They get Sexton, so clearly they're not going to Kemba. Is that to you a sign, going back there for a second, that they feel like they're moving on from LeBron, whereas maybe if they thought he was staying, they would have looked more to a Kemba at the point versus a young Sexton?
Sure, if it turns out that Sexton doesn't end up in Charlotte. I mean, we don't know that either,
enough,
right? So, I mean, there's so many different things that can transpire. But I think when you look at it, and Smitty said this, and I think made a great point, he's going to be really good in the presence of a LeBron or without LeBron. Colin Sexton's a great fit for that team either way. And if you're Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey and their staff, you have to do that. You've got to put yourself in the best position no matter what that decision might look like. And again, I think they should get a lot of credit as a front office for ignoring the noise and sticking with their plan. Everybody else can panic about LeBron. They have a draft to run and a war room to run.
Seth, when you look at Alexander as a possible pick, because we'll see him some here in the next group. We were talking about him this morning, and I was asking about him because you didn't really see him star for a long period of time, which I think people want to see when they're watching young players. What did you notice about his game within the stars they have at Kentucky that you like?
Well, I think his game and his numbers got better throughout the course of the season as his role changed. They brought in a player named Quade Green, a Philadelphia native, to be their starting point guard. He really struggled shooting the ball early in the season. Lost a lot of confidence, got in John Calipari's doghouse pretty early on, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander kind of moved into that role, and as the season went on, became more of a point guard, and then he really became a scoring point guard. That's why I'm just not sure, and I don't get caught up on positions, by the way, in the NBA. So whether he's a 1 or 2, I don't care. He's a really good basketball player, but I do see people talking about him as a pure point guard. That's not how I see him at the next level. I see him as a point guard who can score. I see him as a 2 guard who can facilitate. But, you know, in college, it was his length and his size that allowed him to be super effective. That dimension's not going to be quite the advantage at the next level.
The other thing you could see here, too, Gilgeous-Alexander was the guy that in our mock draft a couple nights ago, I took 20th, and I sprinted to do it. You could actually see somebody trade up to get to a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here as well, if Charlotte is looking at the potential of going back a little bit.
And what I like about Shai is what Seth said is, from high school, you saw the evolution of him quickly in about 6 to 7 months. So you see the progression of a kid go quickly a jump, like you said, from a guy that was kind of one of the biggest names when you start talking about Kentucky Wildcats recruits to end up probably being the best player at the end of the year.
Right. We may, in fact, see a jump to 11. But first, let's jump on board with the Hornets.
It's a new era for Charlotte Hornets basketball. GM Rich Cho was fired mid-season while head coach Steve Clifford was let go following the year after missing the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. Former Lakers GM Mitch Kupchak took over the GM role for Charlotte in April, and former Spurs assistant James Borrego was named head coach in May. All-star Kemba Walker enters the final year of his team-friendly contract, and according to reports, center Dwight Howard is on the move to Brooklyn in a trade. The Hornets own the 11th pick in the draft for the second season in a row. Charlotte selected Malik Monk out of Kentucky with the 11th pick in last year's draft.
As expected, it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who is the pick, at least for now, to the Charlotte Hornets. Remember, does that mean that Kemba is on the move? Could Alexander be on the move? From a standpoint of the Charlotte Hornets, what's their goal right now? Are they trying, Griff, to just unload money? Are they trying to win in the future? Are they trying to get any better? Part of what I think worries Hornets fans is that they don't think the team has a GPS in terms of they're not sure where the direction is with the team.
Well, I think one thing that should be very clear, avoiding the tax was very important. What they did in taking Mozgov's second year of money was prolong the pain a bit, but it also made it so they're not going to be a taxpayer, and I think that was a critical move for them. I think you're going to see them now, because they have a little bit of breathing room under the tax. They may use taxpayer mid-level. I'm sorry, they may use full mid-level now as opposed to taxpayer mid-level. It might give them the ability to hunt a little bit more in free agency than they would have, and that might be another reason why, if they were to trade down, they feel like they have the latitude to do that, because they now have a bigger chip to go get a free agent than they did before. They've invested a lot of money in this group, and they think highly of this group. And before Steve Clifford had his challenges, I think Steve felt strongly about this group as well. So I don't think this is the situation where Hornets fans need to feel like this is binary. We don't have to live in a world where it's I'm competing for a championship or I have to be in the lottery.
Right.
You can try to win 50 games, make the playoffs, and be a winner. And so I think there's every reason to believe that Mitch Kupchak will know how to do that.
A couple of things to look at because this is a very important time in the draft. We've got back-to-back picks now from the Clippers. There's been a lot in play here. While we wait to see if there's a trade with Charlotte, we know, speaking of the Clippers, they have acquired Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a trade with the Hornets. League sources tell ESPN. By the way, one thing we didn't predict, lots of activity on Twitter tonight.
We did also say
so much for that.
We did also say this draft lent itself to this kind of activity because beauty is so much of the eye of the beholder. This was a deep enough draft that you could feel very comfortable moving down this year. A lot of years, that's not the case.
Now the question will be, in return, does Porter fit as one of these couple of picks somewhere? And the guy to me that's interesting is Robert Williams, very late, decided not to come here, and he met with the Clippers twice, including the same day that he decided not to come here. I don't know if that's because he thought it was a guarantee he'd end up there, but look at it this way. If you can make a comp for him, DeAndre Jordan might be a very good guy to look at when you think of the ups, the block shots, and all of that, and it might be a way to save them some money here.
Well, it's a perfect comparison, DeAndre Jordan, Robert Williams, because Robert Williams is a freak. I mean, he jumps out of the gym. He's big. He's strong. He's had some issues off the court, which is why he's going to be drafted as low as he is. But I just think now, if you're the Clippers, I'm probably talking to, both sides of my mouth here about Michael Porter
Now you want
Jr.
Porter.
Yes.
Right.
Well, you got 2 picks.
Yes.
So now you can afford to take a risk. I don't think you do that at 6, 7, or 8. But you got 2 picks back-to-back in the middle of the first round. To me, that's a no-brainer. I think you have to take Michael Porter Jr. at this point.
Yeah, and I think, also another name you start to look at is Miles Bridges from Michigan State. I think he also is a guy, when you said a team like the Clippers would have 2 picks, whichever way they go, I think the Clippers are in a good position of either grabbing a Bridges or a guy like Robert Williams or both.
So it's funny. I actually, in this case, now I'm telling you that everybody else had a good opportunity right before this. If I'm the Clippers and I lost more games from my top 8 rotation players to injury last year than any other team in the league, I think I'm pretty good when I'm healthy. And Doc Rivers did his very best coaching job, maybe of his career last year. They have a lot of reason to believe that they have enough there that if they sprinkle in the right pieces now, they can continue to advance themselves. Robert Williams gives them the opportunity to continue to have that dynamic rolling finisher and maybe wean themselves off of DeAndre Jordan's money.
Yes.
So that's something else I would pay a lot of attention to.
And I love Robert Williams. You don't want to make too much of the tournament, but for those of us who covered it, this is a guy who was windmill dunking in the process of tournament games. He has unbelievable hops. And in a league today where you see Capella, you see DeAndre Jordan, a rim runner getting down the floor who could just make the block shots and dunk, that's a lot of, look, there's a lot of talent there.
And you plug him in, if it's the Clippers, it's the same way DeAndre Jordan plays. And I think it's fantastic. And Griff, you said it best. This is a team that had a lot of injuries. This team, the way Doc coached this team, if you plug in any of these guys, I think they fit. I think a Miles Bridges fit if you keep a DeAndre Jordan, because then he'll be a smaller 4 that can play with a guy that's a huge 5.
They got 2 picks, maybe even 3 with Alexander. Here's the state of the Clippers.
No Chris Paul, no Blake Griffin, no playoffs for the first time since 2011. The Los Angeles Clippers' biggest offseason question will be DeAndre Jordan and his $24.1 million player option. The Los Angeles Clippers put themselves in a strong position to bolster their roster in the draft. The Clippers obtained the number 12 overall pick when they dealt Blake Griffin to Detroit in January, and their actual pick fell right behind that at number 13. That young talent could support Lou Williams, who they recently signed to a very reasonable 3-year, $24 million deal. Despite off-injured Danilo Gallinari's $21.5 million contract for next season, the Clippers have room to sign a max free agent for head coach Doc Rivers, who signed a contract extension at the beginning of the offseason.
The Clippers selection, currently the Clippers selection at number 12. Remember, news from Woj, Alexander seems to be headed to the Clippers, which means Bridges could be to the Hornets. We know one thing he is, and that's the guy that, Smitty, you know as well as anybody in this draft.
Yeah, and here's a kid that obviously could have went pretty high in the draft last year, decided to stay in, played a totally different role, played a lot of small forward, and I think this has helped him. Got a chance to work on his shot. It was improved. I haven't seen a guy in college this young, Seth, go from a 64%, 65% free throw shooter to close to 85. At one point, he was 89, 90%. He is a kid that's a winner that understands the game wherever he ends up, whether it's the Clippers or somewhere else. He plays hard, he plays the right way, and I'm so happy for him because he stayed in school. Even though his pick might even be lower than what he went last year, he got better.
Yeah, and we have to remember, it's like he's a sophomore in college. Oh, he's an old man. Like he's still got a ways to improve, and he's going to need to improve. He's going to need to extend his shooting range. That's the number one thing for him. I think he got caught a little bit in between positions at Michigan State, wanted to play the three, maybe to exhibit himself for the next level, but it was better for the team for him to play for the four. They had Jaren Jackson in the mix and Nick Ward, so it got a little bit awkward in the front court when he played away. He's really at his best as an undersized four, and I actually think that that could translate quite well to the next level. I think he can be, we're seeing a lot of players of that ilk, the undersized four-man now in the NBA, where that wasn't the case as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. He needs to tighten up his handle, needs to extend his shooting range. He's a high-level, NBA-level athlete. He's a terrific kid. If he can continue to improve, I think this is a solid pick for Los Angeles.
So fit is something we've talked a lot about, and sometimes the agent you select matters a lot as well. And Miles Bridges is with Rich Paul and Clutch. Those guys, no matter what, they work. They're in the gym and they are working because LeBron is a big part of what Clutch does, and he sets that tone. Miles will continue to work on his game. He's no Dan Vincent, but he's a Spartan, and what that means is he knows how to work. And Tom Izzo is the kind of coach, again, he wants guys that are more about winning than they are themselves. It's a feather in his cap that he was willing to do what was good for the team. It's also helpful for him to get exposed to playing a lot of three and recognize, you know what, I'm not ready for this yet. And he's going to know what to do with that. He will take that and translate it well. And as you said, Seth, I think it's a great point. He's best as a small four, and the league loves that. As long as you can guard the smaller position, the league loves that.
You know what we love? As we look ahead to 13, they say it's not supposed to be a lucky number. It was last year.
With the 13th pick, the Denver Nuggets select Donovan Mitchell.
He's going to Utah for the 24th pick, and Trey Lyles.
Donovan Mitchell is a special player. This kid plays fearless basketball. Donovan!
He's the best rookie I've seen this year.
A superstar for a long time.
He's done everything well.
He came in hot, went up high. Oh, my goodness.
All right, last year, lucky number 13 it was. Despite himself, Donovan Mitchell, who ended up helping the Utah Jazz on what was an unbelievable season for them as they continue their process of growing. And we get a chance now to grow here in numbers of people on set. Also athleticism, no offense, Smitty, as we welcome in Donovan Mitchell. What do you remember?
I'm offended by that.
What do you remember most about the moments that led up to when your name was called?
You know, I told my agent I didn't want to know if he knew. You know how Woe sent his tweets out and all those guys. So I knew he knew there was a trade. I didn't know anything. I thought I was going to Charlotte at 11. I didn't go there. I thought I was going to Detroit at 12. Didn't happen. So when 13 came around, I was like, oh boy, I didn't work out for Denver, so I had no idea. But when I heard my name called, I was thought like a big weight lifted off of my shoulders.
First of all, Donovan, fantastic year. I mean, you did an unbelievable job. And the reason why I say that, coming to this league, I thought you had to play point guard. I thought you had to play two. You guarded 1, 2s, and 3. And then also putting this team on your shoulder. You were the focal point for a rookie to handle that all year and even take your game to another level. I know how hard that was. Obviously, the talent was there. But I take my hats off to that, what you did last year, from a standpoint with all that on your shoulders. Question I would have for you right now, if you could talk to those rookies, what is the first thing they need to do after this process is over, getting drafted and getting ready to be an NBA player?
Man, my first thing would be enjoy it. You know, don't get so, some guys get so focused, oh, I got to have a good summer league, or I got to have a good first practice. You know, enjoy this. You know, take time because, you know, this is my first summer where I got to lay back. Like, I haven't played basketball. Obviously, I had the injury, but I haven't played basketball since the last game of the season. You know, so give your body a break and relax because for me, you know, I didn't really feel like I hit a wall, but, like, you're playing a lot of basketball, and you got to understand that your body needs a break. That'd be the first thing I say. And the number two, this is the easy part. this is the easy part, you know. You got guys 10, 15 years in trying to come after you because of where you were picked, what burden I had all year. I had so much stuff that offensively that I have never done before kind of overcomes. Now I got Roberson, Paul George, Trevor Reeser trying to come after me every single night. So this is the easy part, getting out there and just being locked in and focused, because this gets a lot harder.
So I've been asked a lot, you know, did you see something in Donovan Mitchell at the college level at Louisville that would have presaged what he was able to do? My answer is always, you saw the athleticism. I just didn't know how his skill set would evolve and improve. How would you look at a college player and be able to determine how much he can get better, or whether he will get that much better?
The biggest thing that I see is the way they finish. You know, I'm a 2-foot jumper. I've always have been. And my thing was, I'm trying to gather and finish in college, and my efficiency was really low. You know, you can't gather. If you blow by a guy in college, the guy's right there. You know, you blow by somebody in the NBA, it's a little bit more time to get up off 2 feet. And the biggest thing I learned was also finishing off 1 foot. I've dunked more times off 1 foot this year than I have my entire life. You know, getting stronger, little things like that, and having poise. You know, I've always never been afraid of the pressure. You know, I prefer it. I love it. But not saying, all right, I'm going against OKC in the first round of the playoffs. No, I'm going against a team that won a couple of games, but we can play. I can play with them. I can take Russell Westbrook. I can take Paul George head on. Having that mindset, because the beginning of the season, it was like, oh, God, I'm playing Bron, I'm playing KD, like all that. So going from that to having that poise and being, I can play with these guys. And it took a while, despite what people may see, like I had some success. But even throughout my success, I didn't think, I was like, when is this going to go away? You know, when they're going to adjust? So it took me a while to kind of realize, or at the point where I'm at now, where I can play.
From a guy who can jump down on the end to a guy who jumped in the draft, the pick at 13 for the Clippers, it's not Robert Williams, it's not Michael Porter, it's Jerome Robinson, a couple of guys on our set said, hey, he's pretty good, but Seth Davis, the kid out of BC, Jerome Robinson, wasn't supposed to go this high. Why should this not be a surprise?
He can score the ball, and in today's NBA, you're talking about that size. He can play 3 positions in the backcourt. He can guard 3 positions in the backcourt. There's a one-footed finish at the rim, pretty impressive, and he really had to carry his team at Boston College. They had a number of terrific high-scoring games, and scored all 3 levels at the rim, behind the three-point line, in the mid-range. I think this is a very, very smart pick. Again, I think the Clippers, when you have 2 mid-first-round picks, you can take a chance at a Michael Porter Jr., but I love this kid. I love the progress that he made, and he can score the basketball tailor-made for the NBA.
So Smitty and I got to see Bill Wazinski, one of the assistant coaches at Boston College, and his family. They're sitting literally right below us here. It was incredible. And we asked him about Jerome, and he said, listen, the most important thing about Jerome Robinson is that he led the ACC in scoring for us, and he was not our leading field goal attempt player and in a game until the 14th ACC game of the year. He is uber efficient as a scorer, and when you're going to a veteran-laden team like the Clippers, it's really important that you be able to capitalize on the opportunities you get.
Yeah, worked with Russell Westbrook in the summer of 2017 to hone his game. From the standpoint of, if you're talking, I know you've had a guys pay it forward to you, Donovan, who you talked to as you came in, and I know you've talked to some of these guys as well. What kind of things are you imparting on them on what to expect when they even get to Summer League? We're even in that realm out in Vegas, which Smitty and I are happy to go visit. Even if there, it's going to be different than what they're used to.
The first thing I told them, I said, do your thing in Summer League, go hard, like don't lose that competitive edge. But once it's over, forget about it. All the hype behind it, all of that behind it, forget about it. It's over with. Now you got, I'm like, oh, I played pretty well in Summer League. I'm thinking, oh, this is how it's going to be. All right, maybe I made the right decision. I come out there, play a preseason game, and guys are moving faster, cutting harder. So it's a lot different. So for me, I told, like I'm close with Jerome Robinson, and I told him, I said, bro, people are going to be surprised. Let them sleep. Like, don't say anything. Say everything you need to say in the interviews. Don't give anybody any fuel. Go out there and just kill them with kindness and kill them with your game. You know, and I think that's all this league is. Can you get somebody a little bit of locker room material, could go a long way.
Were you guys in prep school together with Jerome? Did you guys play in the same
school?
We,
I went to prep school with his childhood friend, Devontae Graham, who's in that as well.
Okay.
So we played together. That's how I met Jerome. But as I've learned, I've had some things that I've said, and then next thing you know, a guy comes out and
don't say that. Kill his mic. Kill his mic.
That's okay. That's okay. I was a big talker. That's okay.
You learn the hard way.
As long as you can back it up.
Exactly. As long as you can back it up.
So take us back 2 years ago in your life. Put yourself in that frame of mind, and then here, everybody wants to know who's the Donovan Mitchell in this draft. What's that like for you to hear that, and what was that 2-year journey like for you?
To hear that, to hear people say, who's the next me? In my life, it's always been who's the next LeBron, who's the next. It's incredibly, it's a blessing. It's a blessing, but I don't like it because it puts a lot of pressure. Like I've come to the point where I realized what I did this year is not normal. It took me a while to realize that it's not normal. I was blessed with an opportunity, certain situations, an organization that believed in me from day one. Not all teams are like that. We had a situation where some teams, if we lose their star player, they go south. They decide to rebuild and not win games, as we've seen. So we went to a team that was like, look, we're going to keep getting in the playoffs. So for the kid, it puts a lot of pressure on that guy coming in, which is unfair because I didn't have any pressure. I was like, people like, oh, he can't play point guard, can't do all those things. So it was my battle to go out there and pick. So I don't personally like it, but if I had to say somebody in this draft, I like Jerome. I love Lonnie Walker. He has that factor that's kind of like, he's quiet, but he's a killer, and I think it's like a Kobe type of mentality. I'm not saying he's going to be Kobe, don't get me wrong, but that mentality that I've watched Kobe so much this year, it's like that mentality.
And you made a really, really good observation about finishing off of 2 feet versus finishing off of 1. Lonnie can finish off of either foot and with either hand.
And it's impressive. And he's taller than me, too.
I want to kind of go around the room a little bit. Michael Porter Jr., every draft we talk about guys who fall. This is the guy, and Donovan, I'll start with you. This is the guy who is falling only because of an injury. If you were to talk to him, he'll get drafted somewhere here. How can he use that to inspire and to fuel him moving forward because of the fact that months ago he was considered to be maybe the #1 overall pick?
It's tough. He's had all his hype throughout high school, and I never had that. So the one thing, I can't relate in that way. But as far as falling and mentally where you think that, all right, I should be picked higher, you should remember every guy, every team, every coach, and every time you play, especially those, say he gets picked next, whatever 12, 13 teams it is, you better go in every game and give them 40. Show them why they passed up on you. Get healthy. Take care of your body 10 times better than people expected. Don't give anybody say, see, I told you. You don't want any of that. Go out there. But also, just enjoy the fact that you got picked. Because there are guys last year that I know that maybe weren't as happy and lost sight of this once-in-a-lifetime moment. But when to get on the court, all right, I remember whoever it was that didn't pick me. I remember you guys were all on me at the beginning, and the kind of question came is a little different. And that's where he's introduced to the business of the game. Yes, that's what it is, the business of the game. So go out there and show all whatever teams ahead of you that picked and show them why they should have picked you.
Now the Denver Nuggets sitting here at 14 in the draft. Could the pick be Michael Porter Jr.? Let's look at the state of the Denver Nuggets.
The Denver Nuggets missed the playoffs for the 5th straight season, losing the last game of the season in an overtime play-in game to the Timberwolves for the 8th seed in the West was heartbreaking. Back-to-back finishes at number 9 in the West. Will the Nuggets turn down Nikola Jokic's small team option and give him a max deal?
Jokic, what a dish!
Will Barton create a significant tax penalty if he resigns? And $108 million is already committed in salaries for the Nuggets, not including Jokic's contract. Mike Malone's 4th season as Nuggets head coach, trying to get to the playoffs for the first time as a head coach.
Maybe the most talked about player in this draft has been taken. Long considered to be the top prospect, if you will. Then underwent back surgery, missed all but 2 minutes of the regular season, then played a little bit. There have been questions about medicals and setbacks and all sorts of things. We'll go around the row here. Smitty, starting with you, what do you like?
Well, first of all, I love this pick for him because when you have a big that can pass the basketball and the Joker, and then also you have Gary Harris and those guys that can shoot the basketball, then you have a veteran, Paul Millsap. Here's a kid that can take his time, and when he's ready, he has everything else around him. And this is a team that's on the rise. So he's maybe not going to a playoff team, but a team that was knocking on the door. And I think in a couple years, if he's healthy, adding them to the mix, this is going to be a fantastic fit for me, in my opinion, for Michael Porter Jr.
Well, look, as someone who saw Michael Porter quite a bit in high school, because at every big event he was the lead attraction, all the hype that you've heard about him and it's all well-deserved. I mean, he's as good a high school scorer as I've seen at his size, ball skills, as both a shooter and a scorer, which is unusual at that age and at that size. So that ceiling is as high as anybody in this draft. So, I think for the Nuggets to get him at this point in the first round is a very solid pick, maybe even a steal. Certainly if he's healthy, it's a steal. But I think this is the story of this draft, is how far this young man has slipped. And I think that, his agent, Mark Bartelstein, and his whole camp probably did a pretty good job keeping from the public the concerns about his back and his medical and his health. And I think the hip issue in the last couple of weeks really exacerbated those concerns. Clearly the concerns were a lot bigger than maybe we were led to believe, and I think him sliding down this far is the biggest story of the night.
Well, and we talked about it. Risk tolerance is a sliding scale, right? And I think Denver's in a situation where, in addition to the fact that they have a lot of good young players that they can put the emphasis on, they also have the potential starting job available if Michael's able to play that way. So they could really go either way with this. If Michael's ready to play before January, they can put him in position to earn minutes. And if he's not, they don't have to be in a hurry because they have elite young assets they're growing with already.
Yeah. Biggest thing people don't know about Denver, with Michael Porter going there, you see what Jamal Murray's done late in games. So what Gary Harris done late in games. So what Joker's done late in games. So now, if you got the point guard bringing the ball up, Michael Porter's wide open. Now you got to pick your poison. And I think, like you said, they're young, so they have many years to grow and learn and build that chemistry. So when you say 4 or 5 years, who do you want to score? Porter, Murray, Harris, and then you got Joker. So it's going to be tough. They're going to be a tough team. They missed the game by 1 playoffs this year. We were the team that kind of beat them out. But they're going to be a tough team, and him going there, I think it's going to be good for him.
Yeah, we'll let you run here, Donovan. But now this is many months of talking to you. Smart, talented, classy. Your dad works for the Mets. You couldn't have played for the Mets? I mean, I'm just selfishly asking you.
I think so.
Couldn't have helped out my baseball team?
Position there. Position.
Pitcher and shortstop.
Okay.
Pitcher and shortstop.
See?
Those guys get paid too, by the way.
Yes, they do. We're out to break more of the NBA Draft 2018 from Barclays, presented by State Farm.
Really, really good.
The picks are in. Tom Izzo will join us on set. When we come back, it's Sparty time.
Basketball fans, what's going on? Akil Augustine here during the draft, live on the set of the Hangout with my friends watching along with me. Dan Glavin, producer of the Raptors broadcast, Donovan Bennett, Sportsnet fan, and our NCAA expert, Amy Audibert. First things first, we want to know what player excites you most now that we've watched the lottery. Dan, we're going to start with you.
Well, I like Marvin Bagley. Sacramento got him at number 2, and I think he's the most ready-made player of anybody we've seen so far.
Okay, Donovan.
It's got to be Luka for me. My guy is taking step-back, one-legged floater threes and hitting them against real men. I think 5 years from now, he's the best player in this draft.
Wow, okay, Amy.
Mohamed Bamba.
Thank you.
We are basketball nerds, and there are not many people in this world that can stand here and give us all high fives like this. And yeah, that's incredible. Like 7'10" wingspan. I'm pumped for him.
All right, well, still more to come after the draft. We will have a wrap-up from the set of the Hangout with these fine folks. But back to the commercials and then to the 15th pick.
Direction goes around. A better back and a better body. Since 1981, that has been my passion. I created teeter hang-ups so people could live healthier, more active lives. I know what it's like to have back pain. When I found inversion, it changed my life forever, and I believe it can change yours. I am proud to present the newest and best teeter hang-ups. Teeter hang-ups is easy to use. Simply set it, lock it, recline, and relax. Just 3 to 5 minutes a day in your own home to help relieve back pain, relieve stress, improve posture, rejuvenate joint health, and build core strength.
The Teeter Hang-Ups offers relief from back pain, naturally targeting the source of the ache by relaxing tense muscles and providing decompression that can help to restore the nutrients to the discs, reduce nerve pressure, and realign the spine.
I can get on it, hang upside down for 10 or 15 minutes, get up, and my back pain is gone. It's amazing.
Instantly, I was feeling the effects from it. My lower back was feeling better in the mornings, and I just kind of felt rejuvenated getting off it every day.
Medical and scientific studies around the world have shown the benefits of inversion, and over 2 million people have put their trust in teeter hang-ups for a better back and a better body. I'm over 72, and I feel great.
Only Teeter meets UL's tough consumer safety testing standard. No one else even comes close to Teeter quality and performance. Now you can try the latest Teeter hang-ups in your home for 30 days for only $14.95. We'll also include 2 of our most popular accessories, which add acupressure massage and deepen the lumbar stretch. Plus, you'll receive the Healthy Back and Core system. But that is not all. If you call now, we'll also upgrade your order to free expedited processing.
This thing is mine. You can't have it. It's one of my most valuable possessions. It really is.
Trust Teeter hang-ups for a better back, better body.
Joel Embiid, never quiet. Don't compare Ayton to me either. I play defense.
Hey, Joel Embiid, he does
Shots
not.
have been fired. Let's get a shot of our own Jared Greenberg chatting with a couple of Sparties.
Dude, you're emotional here, huh?
Hey, anybody knows me, I'm always like smiling, always in a good mood, but this is like this is crazy. Like, I'm lost for words.
Is it just the fact that your dream of being selected in the NBA draft came true, or is there something more to going to Memphis?
It's everything, you know. You're so excited to get drafted, but at the end of the day, you're about to learn from one of the greatest bigs to do this. You know, you're playing with a great guard in Mike Conley, and it's just everything. It feels good, you know. New coach, you know, new system. We got a bunch of young players, so it's not like, you know, you got some guys to hang out with.
All right, well, Miles Bridges is part of a pretty interesting trade here going to Charlotte. Was that something that you anticipated, that they were interested in you?
Yeah, I met with them a few times. I didn't get a chance to work out for them, but I met with them a few times, so I'm definitely interested to see what it's like out there.
They're a team that's clearly going through a rebuilding process. Is it a good opportunity for you here to feel like you can kind of be a guy that helps them turn it around?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a rebuilding process, but the guys there, we got young guys that are going to work hard. It's going to get better every day and try to make it to the playoffs.
It's not bad to have Michael Jordan as your owner, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's definitely one of the greatest of all time. I definitely can't wait.
Now, I can only say this as a father of 3. It's the only way I could describe the smile at the other end of, in my humble opinion, the greatest coach in college basketball, and Tom Izzo, who joins us. Not just saying that because Smitty told me it so.
You read it just like he wrote it, too.
Right on my cue card.
Seth will argue
that. Yeah. Coach, give us a sense, as I sit here and I watch you watch these young men, the pride and joy you feel every time that your guys elevate to the NBA level.
Well, I feel a lot of pride when any of our guys do, but these 2 guys are special. Spitty does know it. He's been around a lot. In fact, his son is good friends with both of them, and you know, they're just 2 great guys. So you're not just getting a great player. I think in Jaren, you know, he's got incredible length and is perfect, an NBA guy, especially for the new NBA, which is maybe he's a pick and pop 5 now, the way you guys got it. And I think in Miles's case, guy came back to try to win a championship, which means winning's important to him, and I'm not sure that's common in this day and age.
Coach, looking at this, and I'm with, you know, Casey here. You're getting a chance to have 2 of your guys in the lottery. Talk to me about a Jaren Jackson, what you see, what he was able to do in college, and what you think would translate at the next level, for sure, the NBA level.
Well, you know, Steve, he's the youngest player in the draft, I believe. And so he's still just learning how to crawl and walk. But, you know, everybody says, well, he didn't average that many points. Well, he was in foul trouble a lot, which young players do get in. He only played like 22, 3 minutes a game. It wasn't because I didn't want to play him. It was because he was in foul trouble a lot. But he can pick and pop, but he can block shots. How many guys can shoot a 3 and block a shot? I think you would have been interested in that back in the day. And that's what he has to offer. But he's gotten better defensively. That's why I think he's better than a lot of these other bigs. Not to talk about what our man Embiid talked about, but I just think he can play defense, he can block shots, he can move his feet.
And, you know, and everybody's going to talk about Miles Bridges. His first year with you, he was playing basically the 4, and then he used to the 3. But I will say he did come back, and he increased his range. Obviously, his ball handling got better. Needs to get better. But I haven't seen a young guy go from 65% shooting free throws to at 89, 90 at one point. Talk about his evolution at both positions.
Well, that's what I love about Miles. You know, I think he's got the toughness that it takes. He's gotten himself in even better shape. But, you know, he's a grinder. He's the guy that was in at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning working on his game. You know, he loves the game. He loves to get better. He has no ego. So whatever you tell him, he'll improve on. He does have to get better on his ball handling. Probably defending on the perimeter laterally, you know. But you talk about an incredible teammate, a guy to have around. It's going to be great, I think, for Charlotte. I really do.
And something that I kind of heard from talking to NBA scouts, I think we talked about this during the course of the college season, talk about how nice these two kids are. You wonder if they're too nice. Now, I know you're not too nice the way that you coached them. So the question is, now that they're going to not have you there to be on them every day and they have their own independence and their own personality, do these kids have the killer drive that you need to be able to improve at the next level? Because they will need to improve.
You know, I said it to Miles especially a lot this year. You know, you got to be a bigger jerk like me. Then I realized I was insulting myself, so I had to change what I was saying. But, you know, what he is he's such a good teammate. He plays within the team. Does he have to learn to take over a game? He took over some. I would agree with everybody that says it. I think Miles would agree. In Jaron, he's ready for that. He wants to do that. He just has to figure out it's okay to be in the post. He's got a right and a left hand. He's just so young that he's going to get better leaps and bounds. So I think both of them, they're both self-motivated, which I think is another key. So I think they will get better, and they'll work on it. And I'll still have a phone. I'll call him once in a while.
Yeah. Troy Brown, by the way, the pick out of Oregon to the Wizards. Suns on the clock. Go ahead, Griff.
Coach, I think one of the great things about having you here, in addition to the fact that you grow and develop such great talent there, Smitty and I talk about this a lot. It means something to be a Spartan. And when we're drafting, we know if they can play for you, they can take coaching. They can be selfless. They can be about the right things by the time they get to us. But you've also been an incredible incubator of talent off the court, of coaches. How are you doing that in your environment, and what are you doing there to make that happen?
Well, I think like everything else, you know, you want to give guys a chance to grow. Everybody thinks you stunt their growth sometimes because we don't have as many guys coming out early as Keller might do, but we're not getting the same players all the time either. No insult in any way, shape, or form, but I just think that we're pushing our guys all the time. We're pushing our coaches all the time. I mean, that's what my job is, really. It's not just about players. We push our managers, for God's sakes. And you know what? We had 9 of them at one time in the NBA video. You had one in Cleveland. Yeah. So I think that's what a good leader's supposed to do. He's supposed to make everybody a little better. Sometimes there's roadkill with that, but the roadkill usually makes you better.
Coach, what I love about it is, one, the style of play you're playing defensively for these young guys. You're going to play man-to-man at Michigan State. You're going to hedge pick and rolls. You're going to switch. You're going to be on an island by yourself, and you are expected to guard your man. So I think when you have that type of coaching and that type of tough love, it translates to the next level. And to your point question itself, for those guys, Miles and Jared, they are very extremely nice guys on the court. But they can be a little nasty on the court. I think they will have
kind of like Smitty.
Well, I'm
Smitty
okay.
was.
I'm okay.
No, he was.
Let me tell you
I only
now,
get mad at
he
Seth,
was
but everybody else
really
is okay.
He's a nice guy.
Really skinny when we first got him, but he had a little, I can't use that word on the air, but he had a little bit of that. But I think you're right. You know, Jaron Jackson's dad came by some practice because he coached at Lawlemere a little bit this season. And that's one thing he said. He really improved defensively from when he came to when he left. But you know what? We did all right offensively, too. We were one of the leaders in the Big Ten in scoring, too. So I think we're getting to the point we're getting some balance. And these two guys help you have balance.
No question.
Coach, appreciate it. Thanks so much for spending a few with us. Great to have you on. Did I do okay, Smitty?
You did okay. All right, Casey,
Thanks,
you did
Coach.
all right.
I want to know where that helmet is now. Smitty, where's the helmet? I want to put the helmet
I
on.
used to have my helmet. I got to have my helmet.
Can we go to commercial,
Hey,
please?
thanks, guys.
All right, we get a chance to go to the Valley of the Sun. Zaire Smith, the Suns pick. And I would say at the breakfast this morning, which is the most important meal of the day for all of us, a lot of talk, Smitty, about the love on this set for Zaire Smith. Why?
Reason why is freakish athlete, plays extremely hard, The upside for me, we usually talk about an upside for a big. The upside for this kid at 6'5", it goes a long way. I love Zaire Smith. He's one of those players that I think in a 3 or 4 years has a chance to be a guy that can offensively, his game can catch up to his defense and his athleticism. Seth, I am in love with Zaire Smith.
This is your out-of-nowhere, rapid improvement, rocket ship, feel-good story of the 2018 NBA draft. This is a guy who was not considered to be one of the top 100, possibly not one of the top 200 players in his high school class. Phenomenal, best athlete in the draft. If he puts that skill level together, you could see an all-star.
Now, the world of Twitter was supposed to be closed tonight, but it's sort of open for business. The Suns are acquiring Mikal Bridges in a deal that sends Zaire Smith to the Sixers and the 2001 first-round pick via Miami in the deal too. Wow. Okay. So let's get both
so much
sides.
for that Villanova-Philly storyline that everybody loves.
Let's start with, I want to get both sides of this script. Let's start with Phoenix, okay? DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges.
So, again, this is really interesting, the timing of Coach Izzo being here. Both of these kids are kids. This morning in that breakfast meeting, we said, these guys play winner. That's what these guys are about. Mikal Bridges is a 3-and-D winner. He's a little further along in his development, certainly, than Zaire. But Zaire is also about all the right things on the defensive end of the floor. He's going to do the little things right now until his offense comes along. He's not as plug-and-play. So if you look at this from Phoenix's perspective, they now get to put in with Booker and Josh Jackson an elite 3-and-D guy, potentially. You hope that's what he becomes. But they get that chance to sort of jumpstart this rebuild, and they do it with a kid who's not 19 years of age. They do it with a kid who's won at a high level, won 2 championships, as our Villanova fans pointed out. Those are the kinds of things that you want guys to embody. The other thing is, when you're going through a coaching search as the Suns, you probably thought a lot about Jay Wright because of what he's done along the way. You probably spent some time with Jay Wright if you're Ryan McDonough and Robert Sarver and that staff. And Jay probably told you, go get Mikal Bridges.
Does it fit from, I want to go to the team standpoint, and then I want to shift over and talk to Zaire Smith with you, Seth. Phoenix, okay? Devin Booker, we know that he could shoot. Joshua, I know you know very well. Defend, shooting improved, not necessarily maybe the huge 4, but now you got 8 in there. Does Bridges fit between them? Do you like the fit there of him at the
Yeah, the reason why is I love Josh Jackson. He's a defensive guy just like Mikal Bridges. You can't get enough of those type of guys, and I think they're totally different. Josh Jackson is a guy that played a lot of point guard, so he can handle the basketball and make plays also with Booker. I think those two guys, and yes, you still need another facilitator, but then you have a Bridges, because of position is basketball, and you have that big anchor, it's okay to play some guys that's small at the 4 position. When you have DeAndre Ayton, I can play a Mikal Bridges or a Josh Jackson sometimes at a 4 with a Devin Booker, maybe at the 3 and the 2. I think the versatility of those 3 guys, the 3 smalls, is fantastic going along with DeAndre Ayton.
Big question for Phoenix, the point guard, before we get to Zaire Smith. Let's look at maybe Ayton's new point guard, Jarrett Greenberg.
Well, DeAndre Ayton, congratulations, man, on being the #1 pick. It's been talked about for a long time. To feel like it's a reality now?
Yes, it's most definitely a reality, and, you know, it's a dream come true, and I'm just happy to be a Phoenix Suns.
What's going through you? I mean, you seem like you're so calm and composed the last couple of days. Do you feel that excitement?
I mean, you know, going through all this media and, you know, handling a lot of media stuff really took my mind off this night. But, you know, when the commissioner went up to the podium, I felt everything, and I was just speechless. I knew it was about that time.
You told me before that you felt like your mom would be the most emotional. Did it play out that way?
It was really my auntie. But it was definitely my aunt. You know, my mom really was very quiet, but my aunt really took it over, and she was really proud.
For all that you've been through in the last year, and you've talked about how much that's taught you, is there a sense of comfort that you know you don't have to move across the country, or you know that you're going to be able to stay in Arizona?
Yes, I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad I'm staying to my second home, something I'm used to. The fans really know me. They're the best fans in the world, and I'm just really excited to show them what I got next year.
And what do you think of this potential here of you and Devin Booker? You compared it to Kobe and Shaq. Is that something that you is a lofty goal? I mean, is it realistic for you? Is it why'd you throw that out there?
It most definitely is realistic. You know, if you know the game of basketball, you know it's really deadly to have a big man, old school big man down low on a guard like himself that can really score the ball. But don't forget the other team, the rest of the team. You know, we got Josh Jackson, Marquise Chris, those guys like that who are young and hungry. You know, it's just a hungry team. I just really want to join that team and be a part of start a winning legacy.
It's been several years since the Suns have made the playoffs. How long before we see them back?
I mean, hopefully we got to get in this gym and really put some work in, do what Coach asks us to do, and just really show the world that we can be a part of the playoffs.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
There is DeAndre Ayton, the #1 pick in the 2018 NBA draft.
All right, Jared, thank you very much. This video is just, you can attest, writing this down. Ayton, Jackson, Bridges, Booker, and now we can put Greenberg in there because they need a point guard. They need somebody.
He's the only one who's old enough to rent a car on that list.
They're going to have to make an old move, and they do have Marquise Chris among others. Bender, speaking of other guys not old enough to rent a car. Let's talk about Zaire Smith, because for Philadelphia, Seth, they're trying to win now. The process is now here, and they may be thinking about even more with guys like LeBron. That means they're thinking Zaire Smith is a guy who can help them now. Why can he be a guy who can help an NBA team today?
Well, again, we talked about his athleticism. That's first and foremost. Zach LaVine-esque, NBA slam dunk champion-esque athleticism. He is a guy, as I mentioned, was not highly rated coming out of high school. Nobody knew who he was. No disrespect, but that's why he ends up at Texas Tech. At the end of his sophomore year, all of a sudden, he's a first-round draft pick. He does have a decent mid-range game. He's made a few three-pointers, but he's not an NBA three-point shooter now by a long shot. Does he improve? Does he add that by his first year? Could he be the Donovan Mitchell that everybody's looking for in this draft? I would say if it's about what you can do right now this year, Mikal Bridges is a much better fit. And certainly on the defensive end, he's more of a blender. He's an older guy as a redshirt junior, so I don't see Zaire Smith as the guy who can come into Philadelphia and really be a high-impact scorer right now. Athletic guy, finisher, get him out on the break, let him guard, maybe make a few buckets. I think he's a piece, but I think Bridges is the better piece if your goal is in the short term.
Yeah, and I think what Zaire gives them is, one, he tends to make the right pass. His decision-making is pretty good. He's not a point guard by any means, and he's got a long way to go in the handle, but he tends to move the ball the right way. And the Sixers team is very much built on ancillary playmaking. They have a lot of guys that can move the ball. So what this might indicate is that they want somebody who can be that raw meat attack kill defender that they need. And it might tell us that they feel very confident that they're going to be able to keep Redick, maybe Bellinelli or Ilyasova, and some of that shooting in free agency.
I'll tell you what, one of our favorites, our good friend Mike Fratello, this is going to be his favorite pick because it's dual factor. Nova guy and a guy he can go eat his spaghetti with. As our guy Dante DiVincenzo is the pick. This guy, Smitty, is somebody that I know you have become a real big fan of. We all are going to remember the athleticism and the block in his tournament play. It got him into this draft and rose him up to a pretty nice spot with the Bucks at 17.
A winner. And the reason why I say this, watch what he did for Jay Wright throughout the year. He didn't start some games. Then he started. The ball wasn't in his hands. But whenever they needed him to play bigger than his role, he did that, in my opinion, Seth. And then in the national championship, Jalen Brunson, their scorer, was in foul trouble. And boy, did he step up. And what I like is what you said. He can make plays, game-changing plays, defensively. Offensively, he played a lot without the basketball because of Brunson. But at times, they put the ball in his hand when Brunson was not on the court, and he was comfortable. That's what I loved about him. Then he's a guy that will defend, and then he's a guy that can come out and run and get other guys better. Didn't get a chance to just talk to him. I think this is going to be a huge pick. He's going to the Milwaukee Bucks with a great coaching staff and the Greek Freak. This is a good selection.
Not often that you see a guy get vaulted in the first round, really on the basis of one game. Now, he's a very good player, and he had a decent season at Villanova, was not a starter, came in a pinch of the championship game, and because of that, it's not just about what he did in that game, but because of that game, decides to put his name into the draft, and then we're on our way. He was the guy I was out at the Combine, was as curious to see about what anybody would do. He played in the very first game. The first thing I noticed about him, Griff, is his size. Against all those other really good college players, he looked like a big guard to me. He came down the court. He made a three-pointer like it was butter. had a crafty finish on the break where he finished with his left hand and then got a crazy one-handed rebound out of his area in traffic around the rim. By halftime of the first game, everybody in the gym knew that he was going to stay in the draft. I think it's a great story. I think, again, he's tailor-made for today's NBA. Older player because he redshirted for an injury, and we know about his mindset. He's ready.
Well, he's tailor-made for a playoff team, right? Because he's about winning. He was willing to play whatever role he needed to play. It wasn't about him. He was very over himself. And he is a kid who plays to the athleticism he tests at. Because you've seen that block, because you've seen that finish, because you've seen him do in games what he tested to in the combine, those combine numbers matter. They don't matter if he doesn't play to it. Luke Jackson was one of the best athletes ever tested, and he was never really able to translate that to the floor in the NBA. Dante has an athleticism that translates, and he's going to be very much, because of the mindset, he's going to be a turbocharged Matthew Dellavedova, if you will. He's a really good fit there for those reasons.
Who, by the way, happens to be on that team.
Right.
In Dellavedova, so it fits out perfectly. I wanted to ask you about position because I love what we were talking about, and we'll talk about more later between the twinner, I'm a winner. The tweener players, the guard, or they have Brogdon, right? A guy who's kind of, we're not sure really what he is, not necessarily a point guard. Where is DiVincenzo? Do you see him playing some point? You talked about his handling of the basketball. Can he do that?
I don't see him playing a lot of point guard, but I also do see him being able to handle the basketball and be comfortable in making plays. But I also see a great fit with the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis has the basketball in his hands. He played with Jalen Brunson, a guy who dominated the basketball. Some guys come out of high school, and they are the guy, they don't know how to play without the basketball. I think he knows how to play that, and Jay Wright helped him because of the coaching of Jay Wright. He knows how to cut. He knows how to screen. He knows how to give spacing. He knows how to be a good player playing amongst a Mikal Bridges and a Jalen Brunson. So I think he's a perfect fit, and he can shoot the three ball.
All right, the Spurs are on the clock, and nobody really that is a fan of San Antonio thinking about anything other than Steve Smith's career there. No, it's probably the Kawhi thing. Sorry, Smitty. Right now, Griff, where are we with that? Because we hear conflicting reports about, well, he says he wants out. He told Pop he wants out, but L.A. is not ready to talk about it yet. Do you think it's a foregone conclusion that he plays in another jersey, or is it still possible he's a Spur?
You're talking about 21 years of absolute dominance in terms of everything staying in-house. You're talking about the most sustainable organization that's been in our business. I don't think anything's a foregone conclusion until Greg Popovich tells me it is, because they've been better at ignoring the noise than any franchise in our business. So no, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. But I do think this is really interesting. If you think about this, we just said that Zaire might not be a here and now fit for Philly. Well, if you're San Antonio and you're reshuffling the deck and you're going after a kid who's about all the right things and he's at a Texas school, maybe Zaire Smith's a good fit eventually for San Antonio. And if San Antonio is going to trade Kawhi, you could feel pretty good about the potential that they would send him to somebody that Pop and R.C. Buford have an existing relationship with. Brett Brown may have done this to put himself in better position to put a more attractive package on their doorstep as well. So there's a lot we don't know yet. And because of the Kawhi situation, while I do not think it is at all a foregone conclusion he's going anywhere, you always have to try to connect the dots because it's fascinating to me.
A lot on the chessboard for a San Antonio Spurs team. Here's their outlook.
The San Antonio Spurs are coming off their 21st consecutive season with a trip to the playoffs, but enter an offseason with major questions. Greg Popovich and R.C. Buford must be considering how the health and happiness of superstar forward Kawhi Leonard may affect the future of their franchise. Will the team decide to move the seemingly unhappy All-Star? The Spurs are looking at a possible $98 million of salary next season, which gives them very little room for major change before entering the luxury tax. San Antonio has 2 picks in this year's draft, including number 18, their highest selection since taking Tim Duncan first overall in 1997.
The pick for the Spurs is in. It's Lonnie Walker, who's 6'5", with his hair about 6'7.5", or somewhere around there. This is a guy with a ton of athleticism, Seth, not talked about maybe enough nationally. Tell us about Lonnie Walker.
Well, he had a serious injury last summer that delayed his entry into the season. You can see he can get way up over the rim. He's got terrific size. It is really only the medical concerns that he even fell to this late in the draft. So there's that jumping off of 1 foot that Donovan Mitchell loves so much. Athletically, he's ready to play in the NBA. He's got a great nose for the ball. Again, didn't see a lot of him in Miami because of his injury situation. Obviously, you got to assume that the Spurs checked him out medically, and I think that's why he fell to them at this point of the draft. I think this late in the draft, I think he's a very good pick.
I mean, excellent pick for San Antonio. Here's a player for me is getting a chance to watch him call his game in the NCAA tournament. He plays on balance, and a lot of young guys are not on balance. He absorbed contact. I mean, when you watch him, he's never off course. He didn't get a chance to play a lot because of the injury, but at the end of the year, you saw the explosiveness. Jump shot is pretty good, off the dribble, off the catch and shoot, and he is a competitor, plays with a lot of passion. For me, Griff, I think the San Antonio Spurs have done it again. If they keep this pick, this is the guy I kept saying could be the sleeper of this entire draft. I think they did it again with Lonnie Walker. Fantastic pick, and he's NBA body ready to play today.
So if I was in a NBA war room right now, I'd be sick to my stomach in much the same way I was.
And aren't you glad you're not in a war room right now, by the way?
As DeJounte Murray was falling in that draft, we were trying frantically to get a pick to get in front of San Antonio because we kind of knew that's where he was looking to go or was rather lined up to go. And I think this is one of those situations where Lonnie is inconsistent with a lot of the game. But the thing that he does not lack is character, motor, and work ethic. And San Antonio invests in all of those things at the highest level. And again, he translates his athleticism to the game. You saw him posterize people in dunks. You did see him be menacing at times defensively. It just wasn't enough of his focus. If not for his injury situation, I have no doubt he would have gone much earlier. It was a knee surgery. People started to worry that, like Michael Porter Jr., it could be something where this injury leads to another thing. So he fell a little bit more than he probably should have. And is often the case, fit is important for teams, but it's really important for the kids as well. Lonnie Walker's a huge beneficiary of this. And I know if he knew that Donovan Mitchell sat here and told us that he thinks Lonnie is the next Donovan Mitchell and is better because he can jump off of either foot and finish with either hand, I'd be awfully excited as a Spurs fan.
We're only 18 picks in. We've had all sorts of mama drama to this point, but we've got about 17 hours still to go. In the meantime, Donovan DiVincenzo. Some nerves, maybe need some Tums, some prayer, and then elation. Family DiVincenzo on their way to Milwaukee.
With speaker. Welcome back. We are live, so it's going to be wild. Hangout set at Keel Augustine, and of course, Dan Gladman and Nate Burleson, famous NFL player, and of course, Amy Adebar. Quickly, the Toronto Raptors did not have a pick in this draft. There was a lot of talk about maybe they would move in, move out, but after you saw how this thing shook out and the players that are getting taken, I'll start with you, Dan. Are you happy with them standing pat and trying to do other things?
Yeah, I think they need to make their moves not based on the draft, but based on personnel that's already in the NBA. The Raptors have had a lot of draft picks over the last 3-4 years. They're already a very young team, and that's the direction they're going in.
Happy?
I mean, when you saw guys like Porter Jr. falling a bit, assuming you're comfortable with the medicals, or even a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who you could have got, I do wish they made a move, only because when you look at the difference in salary and paying a guy like Shai, for example, around 10-ish, $4 million or so, and playing your all-star.
I'm going to cut you off. We're out of time. All right. Sorry, Amy, you didn't get a chance to talk. We'll be back with more, though. The Hangout's coming up. Hang out!
Looking for a hotel that fits your budget? TripAdvisor now searches over 200 sites to find you the hotel you want at the lowest price. Grazie, Gino. Find a price that fits. TripAdvisor.
My father, who was a brewer before me, and to have it say, yes, you're doing a good job, is like means the world to me. You work hard, you get the job done, but at the end of the day, we go for a beer.
when he told me that I want to do this, then I said, yeah, go. Just work hard, and things will come your way.
Big shoes to fill, that's for sure, but
You're doing a good job, Dave. You're doing a good job.
The Atlanta Hawks, remember early in the draft, they traded down, ended up getting Trae Young. Now red matching the red. Kevin Huerter is the pick, a guy who once John Beilein said reminds him of Karis LeVert, who played for the Wolverines and now is a member of the Nets. The important thing I want to mention here, though, about Huerter, they asked him what he wants to do after his playing career is over. He said, become a college coach. Let's find out if that's a good idea as we welcome in our guest down on the end. We roll tide with our guy Avery Johnson. So any advice of some of the stresses you deal with as a college coach?
Every day is a perfect day as a college coach. Does he look stressed? We don't have any stress. I just had my first player drafted in the lottery. So what are you talking about, stress?
How proud were you to see Colin get drafted tonight?
I'm proud because he's a great kid. He's a hard worker. We identified his talent at an early age. And when I first arrived in Alabama in 2015, he works hard. He solves problems for you on the floor, especially when your plays break down. We consider him a two-way player. People want to focus on his exploits as a pick-and-roll player, his speed, but he's very competitive on the defensive end. And he comes from a great family. His mom and dad did a terrific job with him.
Avery, you know basketball from every level. You know that position from Colin Sexton. Tell the people why it's going to translate from college to the NBA. I know him because I've seen him in Atlanta. I have my opinion, but you had him up and close, and he played for you, and I saw the relationship you had. Talk about what's going to translate for him at the next level.
Well, the reason why I translate is you can't really teach speed. He has unbelievable speed. He finishes well around the basket, sort of like Kevin Johnson did. But when you're talking about the old Isaiah Thomas from the Bad Boy Pistons, that mid-range game, the confidence, the swagger, his game travels. He plays well on the road. He plays well at home. He's a gym rat. And when you get him out in space and you put shooters around him, I think that travels well. It plays well on the NBA level. The longer the game goes on, the stronger he gets.
What's the number one thing he needs to get better at?
I just think his spot-up three-point shot, I think that would be fair to say he's really good off the dribble taking the three. But when when his teammates create open threes for him, he'll figure it out and improve in that area. But he's a complete player. I think he has a chance to be a perennial all-star.
So we had the Admiral in that seat earlier, and as the floor leader, the floor general, what David said as he was leaving was that you were really important to his development as a player because a veteran point guard can make the game so much easier. How do we make the game easier in the NBA for Colin? What's he going to need to be comfortable?
Well, the main thing is a coach that believes in him and just empower him. Colin has unbelievable basketball IQ, and as the season progressed, the trust factor between us increased, and I didn't have to do as much. But I just think also when you put guys around him that are going to be guarded, it's going to give him an ocean of space to operate, and that's going to be bad news for the opposing defenses. But, David was an unbelievable teammate. Jaren Jackson, our old teammate, had his son drafted tonight. It's just a big night all the way around.
Avery, that point guard position is about leadership, and you know Colin Sexton, everybody talk about leadership on the court, but what I love is this kid can lead off the court as well. A great kid to follow as far as example. Just talk about what he did off the court for other players.
It was amazing because he was a great example of being a student athlete. This is a 4.0 student, and he wasn't taking checkers. He was taking real classes.
Why'd you look at me when you said that, by the way? Did you get his Michigan State?
No, I saw Coach Izzo earlier, but you know, he was a great role
Don't worry
model.
about it. I'm getting later.
Yes, he was just great because he was really focused on his academics. Never was late for a class. Never was late for tutoring. He wasn't a party guy. You know, maybe when some of the other kids on campus was partying, he was in the gym working on his game.
I want to ask you about Trae Young, just from the standpoint of this, being a guy when you were in the NBA, had a lot of people, I'm sure, who sat there and said, nah, not at the, what, at the NBA level, because everybody sits there and they look at size and not size of heart. If you had advice for a guy like Trae Young, who's going to have some naysayers, what are you telling him, Avery?
Well, he's got to be himself. I had a front row seat to watch Trae and Colin go head-to-head, and that was a huge game for our program. We sold out the arena. Tickets have been improving every year. But when you look at Trae, you look at a kid that maybe is not as physically imposing and as athletic as Colin, but man, that three-point shot, you know, we had to guard him when he got off the bus. So keep taking your shot, be relentless, be fearless. He seems like, you know, he's a guy that his teammates embrace, and he's very coachable. So I think he'll have a bright future also.
Avery, we thank you for a couple of minutes. Really appreciate this.
Well, if you invite me on the show, you got to say roll tide.
All right, roll tide.
Roll tide. Roll tide. Thanks, guys.
All right, Avery, thank you.
Thank
Here's Jaron earlier tonight with Colin Sexton.
All right, the Cleveland Cavaliers have selected Colin Sexton, and we were just talking here that the wine and gold here of the Cavs, not too far from the Alabama Crimson right here.
I know. Honestly, I just wanted to see how close I can get to Alabama colors, and it all goes together, honestly. So,
all right, the big question, let's not ignore it here. The Cavs have no idea what their team is going to look like after July 1st. What would it mean to you to have the opportunity to play with LeBron James? And do you think by you being picked, that's going to want him to stay?
Absolutely. I feel like I can talk to him a little bit and just and really just see and learn from him and feed off of his hard work and dedication that he has put in towards his teammates and everybody in the city. So honestly, I'll talk to him. I just hope he stays because it will be a really good team, and I feel like we can shock a whole lot of people next season.
All right, the pick is in at number 20, Josh Okogie for the Timberwolves out of Georgia Tech. A guy who was the recipient of the 2018 ACC Top 6 for Service Award for dedication to the community and outreach program. So a guy who we know is a good person on the floor, a guy who people have said maybe needs to improve the jumper and the mechanics a little bit at the next level.
Well, you know, his jump shot obviously needs to improve, but when you talk about relentless, here's a kid I've been knowing since he's young in Atlanta, and when he got to Georgia Tech, he just came on the scene because he played extremely hard. He went through the ACC, and I thought he had a great freshman year, and he had a good sophomore year, but here's a kid, straight line driver, attacks, and not afraid of bigs, and wants to get after it, and loves contact, Griff and Seth. Whatever he does, he likes to be touched, and he likes to touch. This is a good pickup for him because he's a very, very physical guard.
But again, I think that's going to have to be his maturation. Is, you know, at the NBA, I mean, he's 6'4", so he's got good size, but it's not overwhelming size. He's going to have to learn how to play. He's going to have to learn how to play at different speeds. He's going to have to add some tools to his toolbox. I think he's drafted maybe a little bit high. I see some guys still out there right now. Grayson Allen is still out there right now. The guy that I'm watching for right now, because I did this last year all night with Jordan Bell, Chandler Hutchison from Boise State is now officially going to be the steal of this draft because he's a very talented player, perfect for today's game in terms of his versatility. I think Okogie's going to have a ways to go in terms of his skill set. Physically, in terms of his mentality, he'll be a very good NBA player, but he's going to have to mature.
Well, and dimensionally, he might be a shorter player, but he's got a 7-foot wingspan, and he plays to that wingspan. And so I think if you're Tom Thibodeau, Minnesota really struggled to defend particularly in the absence of Jimmy Butler. And what you're going to want Josh to do is come in, be selfless enough to be all about the defensive end, and let his shots and everything else come within the flow of the game, playing off of Karl Anthony Towns and Jimmy Butler.
Utah Jazz are at 21. Last year they hit blackjack and then some with their pick at 13. Donovan Mitchell from the Spider to Lady Liberty and all things in between. 2018 draft rolls on.
All right, basketball fans, still cutting in live from the Hangout set. Time to have some fun and ask people what stood out most. Who had either the worst hair or the worst outfit? Dan Gladman, we'll start with you because you usually have both.
Well, I usually have the best hair, certainly compared to you and me. I'm going to go with the best hair of the players, and I like Lonnie Walker's hairdo. I think if basketball doesn't work out for him, I think he's got a career as a recording artist.
Okay.
Worst, Michael Porter Jr. all white, man. You're not.
Really?
Yeah, you're not.
Bron did it.
No, he's not Bron either.
Okay. All right, who you going, Andy?
I wasn't a fan with Jaren Jackson Jr.'s velour rose pink suit.
Okay.
It's just not my thing.
I want to give a shout out to Shea Alexander's mom's curtains. Trae Young's outfit had shorts. I thought that was horrible. But still more to come from the set of the Hangout after the draft. Of course, we'll have our recap show. So you stay tuned. Right now, let's keep this thing rolling and watch out for Hangout!
From Montreal to Calgary, Vancouver to Almont, the NBA and Bell spread our love for the game through refurbishing local basketball courts. We bring our communities together.
For drug-free sinus relief, experience Navage, the next big thing in nasal care. Navage is the only nose cleaner with powered suction to pull refreshing saline rinse in one nostril and out the other. Navage relieves congestion from allergies and colds naturally by flushing out allergens, mucus, dust, and germs.
I used to get so congested, but Navage cleans out all the stuff that makes me miserable so I can breathe again.
Now at these fine stores and Navage.ca, you'll love that clean nose feeling.
Metro News at 6.
Tom? Hey.
Snickers satisfies.
Bud Light. A smooth, light-tasting lager with a crisp, clean finish. Just like you, it's made for living.
Ba-ding-a-ding-ding, ba-ding-a-ding-ding.
DeMar DeRozan with his 52 points, a Raptor record.
That's great. So, I like that one. I'm DeMar DeRozan, and you're watching NBA TV Canada.
All right, it is Duke going to Duke. Quinn Snyder with that program in Utah adds Grayson Allen, another guy Coach K knows well. So, Seth Davis, a lot of talk about Grayson Allen and maybe too much about what he didn't do on the court. Let's talk about what he can do on the court.
Well, you know, he had the fastest agility time at the Combine. In fact, it was one of the fastest agility times they've had there in the last 10 years, one of the top 5 of the last 10. I think that surprised some people, although you really shouldn't be surprised if you've seen Grayson Allen play a little bit, and we all have. One thing we know is that he's a very good athlete. He was caught a little bit this season betwixt and between in terms of his role on the team. Coach K wanted to make him a little bit more of a standstill shooter, which took away some of his aggressiveness. The middle was clogged with Marvin Bagley and Wendell Carter. So in some respects, he did not have a great senior season. Came one shot away from sending Duke into the Final Four against Kansas. But I think he's a great fit in Utah, and I think he's a great example of a player who will be better in the NBA than he was in college, because he's going to be playing with other good players. He's going to be playing in space. And just as a final point, anybody out there, and Griff as a GM can speak to this, who thinks that NBA players are, NBA teams are concerned that a guy's a little bit too competitive and that he boils over a little bit, doesn't understand sports and how NBA teams think. They love his competitiveness. Obviously, you want it to be matured and channeled properly, but in all the conversation I had, there was not a single concern about the tripping and everything that he went through in college. I think he's ready to be an NBA player and a grown man.
All right, let's go to Smitty, who's betwixt. Betwixt?
Betwixt and between. That was my writerly moment for the evening.
All right, Smitty, betwixt me and Seth. Donovan Mitchell just said on the in-house feed, he played against Grayson in college, loves the competitiveness, and was happy that he fell to them. Why is Grayson a good fit with this system with Quinn?
Well, first of all, you have two guys in Donovan Mitchell that can also play off the ball and with the basketball. Donovan Mitchell did that a lot with the Utah Jazz. And obviously with the basketball, I think Donovan Mitchell will be better than Grayson Allen. But Grayson has that ability. Played a little point guard for the Duke Blue Devils. But he can flat out shoot the basketball. And when you start talking about stretching the floor, he can shoot the basketball, and he's not afraid to take tough shots. But he also can pump fake and drive. He is a phenomenal athlete. I don't think people understand his athleticism. You saw it more at the high school level than you saw it at Duke because all the defense is keyed on him. But in space, he will be able to finish, and he's relentless, and he's another guy that I thought the college game, to Seth's point, he liked the contact so much, it would benefit him more at the NBA level than I think at the college level.
Which is interesting to point out because I remember, Seth, you and I sitting at the desk, the game they lost in the tournament, even though they had Bagley and Wendell Carter, it's Grayson Allen going into the paint and getting fouled after banging into three guys. The only way they stayed in that game was him scoring from the foul line. Grip, I know the kind of a mentality in that dog, if you will, that you wouldn't mind having on your basketball team.
No, not at all. And Dennis Lindsey's built a team there very, very much of this mindset. Quinn Snyder is exactly the right kind of coach to embrace Grayson. Quinn has a connection to that Duke program as well. He's going to know all of the warts very well. He's going to understand how to keep him on that fine line between revving too hot and really applying all of that energy in the right direction. Grayson, like a lot of young players, did not do a very good job of focusing on those things that were in his control. Sometimes he would let other things bother him. So from a poise standpoint, Quinn's the exact right coach for him. In terms of fit, Utah's group around him is ideal. His shooting component will be hugely significant there. And because of the presence of Ingles, who can be a facilitator as well, because of Donovan's growing facilitation, because of Rubio, he's not going to be asked to do a preponderance of what he can't do. He'll be asked to do what he does very well.
We get a chance to say very well done for the Chicago Bulls if you ask Seth Davis on set. This is the first Boise State selection in the NBA draft since 1999. Chandler Hutchinson to Chicago.
Does everything. He's perfectly tailor-made for today's NBA. You know, he's a guy, he's from California, played at Boise. He looks like he's not trying that hard, but he is a bulldog work ethic. He improved each year. You can see he's got the ability to stretch the defense with his shot. He is really good. First of all, his rebound numbers were off the charts, so that shows you some toughness. But he's really great at that rip and run where he can get the defensive rebound and then also lead your break so you can send your finishers out there. I think he's tailor-made for the NBA. I saw some of the mock drafts that had him anywhere between right about now and even middle, late second round, which to me would have been quite surprising. So to see him go here, Smitty, I think is perfect. Terrific pick by the Chicago Bulls. He'll be a multi-year NBA player.
We get a chance to go down in the stands. Our own Trey Kirby. Hey, Trey.
What's up, guys? I'm here with a couple of my fellow Bulls fans. How do you guys feel about Chandler Hutchinson, number 22?
Oh, I'm glad that they targeted him. Great pick.
Seems like he's going to be able to help right away. What do you think?
Oh, definitely.
Earlier, Bulls took Wendell Carter, number 7. Adam, with Chandler Hutchinson, you happy with the haul so far?
Yeah, I think we really added two solid guys who could be part of our future. We got versatile defenders on both Hutchinson and Carter, so I love the two picks. Welcome to Chicago, guys.
Bulls making moves. The Bulls fans are happy. Back to you guys.
Yeah, I got to say, you got to go back to a year ago, Griff, and the draft where we sat, and the three of us were here. I almost fell, Smitty, thanks. Which I did during the tournament.
Yes,
this is apparently,
yes, I know you did.
Yes. You were on the set both
times. Can we run
times,
that video?
We don't have that video. It's in the studio in Atlanta. So we're sat here a year ago, and the Jimmy Butler deal was made, and we're reading reaction, and a lot of people thought, well, wait a minute, the Bulls, they got bamboozled, right? Not a good deal. Why would you give Jimmy Butler? Now we sit here a year later, and they've got
Chris Dunn, who played really well, Markkanen, who fit in perfectly, right? Levine, who now will come in healthy. You think about even the growth of Portis, and now you sit here and you add Hutchinson and Wendell Carter. The Bulls are putting together a hell of a course, Mitty.
Well, when you look at Chandler, success point, when you start to talk about fits, you have Chris Dunn, who pushes the pace. Zach Levine pushes the pace. And then you have a finisher in Chandler, who I think is one of those guys, watching him play, he finishes over the top, Seth, but then he has this knack of being able to finish around people, using the rim, and then
Crafty.
he has a lot of size. But also, he's not bad being a spot-up shooter. And I think his mechanics, he will get better. And then he won't have to be thrown to the wolves where they need him to be successful right away. This team is on their way. I think it's a perfect fit for both him and the organization.
And kudos to the Bulls for shutting down a player they actually got. This happens very often. Chandler Hutchinson worked out for the Bulls. His medical was in the hands of the Bulls first. They interviewed him first, and then he didn't do anything else. Everybody had very much a feel that Chicago had promised Chandler Hutchinson. And in our mock draft, we had Chandler going to Atlanta at 19. Chicago, Gar Form and his staff did a phenomenal job of identifying this player very early and keeping someone who would have been wildly attractive to other teams away from people ahead of them in the draft. And they also really benefited from the fact that some guys fell that other people didn't anticipate, so it threw everything off a little bit, and Chicago now benefits from amazing early work in the draft process.
Griff, you and I were sitting there getting ready, and what did you tell me? You said, sometimes you read tweets, people ask, what are you wearing?
No question.
Now you get to reverse.
So I'm building the super outfit tonight. Super teams can't beat Golden State, but we're going to put together the super outfit and there's my shorts. I'm going with those shorts, no question. I'm going with Trey Kirby's jacket.
Welcome back to the set of the Hangout, now talking CanCon as we continue to roll along in the NBA draft. What is it, kind of like an after show deal we're having here? Let's start with some CanCon, of course. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Drafted by the Clippers. Another Canadian into the fold. You excited for this young man and what you've seen from him?
Yes, I think he's got himself in an amazing opportunity with the Clippers. Doc Rivers coaching him. They really do need a starting point guard, and I think he's going to be handed the keys very early on.
I'm going to skip Donovan because he stole Amy's time earlier in the show. Amy, you were very upset that Trae Young went ahead of this guy. Talk about your boy.
Yeah, I mean, I am. What do you want me to say? I think that in terms of ceiling, and there's so many other reasons why I think Shea probably maybe should have won on top of Trae, but I'm glad he's in LA. I think it's a great place for him.
All right, well, us Canucks have another reason to watch the Clippers. Well, not another reason. We finally have a reason to watch the Clippers. We'll be back with more Hangout!
For drug-free sinus relief, experience Navage, the next big thing in nasal care. Navage is the only nose cleaner with powered suction to pull refreshing saline rinse in one nostril and out the other. Navage relieves congestion from allergies and colds naturally by flushing out allergens, mucus, dust, and germs.
I used to get so congested, but Navage cleans out all the stuff that makes me miserable so I can breathe again.
Now at these fine stores and Navage.ca, you'll love that clean nose feeling.
second time. This is Murray going in for the big-time slam. Hear me, says Jamal Murray.
9 on TNT.
Not bad when your family has 3 brothers that have all now made the NBA. One who plays for the Bulls, which we talked about. Of course, Drew, who to me really showed out defensively and offensively in the playoffs. And now Aaron Holiday, who, Smitty, we were just talking about it. I mean, look, they had a guy twice now in Darren Collison, who was a UCLA kid who's kind of similar size. This guy can shoot a little bit, get up and down the floor.
You know, I loved him because all the different roles he played with UCLA. Came in as a freshman, played, you know, with the basketball in his hand, then had to play off the basketball with Lonzo Ball. Then this year had to be a scorer, more of a scorer. So he's a facilitator. He had to come off the bench. He defends. And I think now you're getting a chance to see this Holiday family. This is an unbelievable story, Seth and Griff, to me. 3 guys, 3 brothers will be playing the NBA, all of this age playing against each other. Kudos to that family, and this is a good fit and a good team for him with the Pacers.
Yeah, it is an amazing story, Smitty. And look, Aaron Holiday is a true scoring point guard. I mean, he knows how to run a team. I think for him to stay that extra year after Lonzo Ball left meant he had to take on a lot of leadership responsibilities. A+ in the locker room, setting the tone for them defensively. A lot of drama at UCLA this year. They had the shoplifting incident in China to start the season, kind of hit some rough patches during the course of the season, still made it to the NCAA tournament. And again, Griff, this is a guy who, given the way the NBA is going, the need to score the ball from the point guard position while still being able to run a team, I think he's a solid backup point guard. You know, maybe on a less good team he could be a starter, but certainly a rotational player. If he's your backup point guard, you're in good shape.
Well, the thing you really like about Aaron, and Smitty, you played with Ty Lue. Ty could turn and burn you in the backcourt and work you defensively. He could lock in on you one-on-one defensively. And if you're bringing Aaron off the bench, he's going to do that for you. If he's your starter, you're going to rely more on the fact that he can play, make, and shoot the ball. But he has a piece off the bench that's unique. You don't see that a lot anymore. Now, he struggled himself against defensive pressure. When people got into him, he had a little bit of a hard time. But he can flip the script on that a little bit. And if you bring him in to let him wear somebody out who might be giving Victor Oladipo some issues, this could potentially be a good fit.
When you sit now and you look at where we are at 24, Portland on the clock, look at some names. You got Anthony Simons, who's a guy who's interesting. You got the IMG Academy, and the guy doesn't have college experience. Robert Williams has really slid. Now, this is a guy who a lot of people thought was a back-end lottery pick. I'm surprised. I know there's off-the-court possible issues and things of that nature, but when you get to this point, don't you take the best possible talent?
Yeah, it's a great point. We hadn't even thought about him because we talked about him going potentially in the middle of the first round. You know, again, from a physical talent point, Robert Williams is a top 10 pick, maybe top 7 pick. So it's nothing possible about his off-court issues. That's the reason why he's still on the board. And could potentially now slip into the second round. And I think it's a cautionary tale to young people, young players out there, you know, to really mind your discipline and mind your lifestyle, and you can live out your potential. So he's going to have some work to do.
Now I'm going to do this way, I don't even remember where they picked. When's Golden State on the clock? Because how many guys?
I think last.
How many guys have they?
Right?
They're 28. How many JaVale McGee's or other guys that are supposed to not be this and that, and all of a sudden they get to Golden State and they'll go, yes, I'll do whatever you want.
Jordan Bell.
How do you think they do with a guy who can rim protect and jump up in the air and say, no, maybe not too bad?
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I'm putting myself back in a war room right now thinking about how nauseating that would be to think about. You know, it's funny. I think it all depends. Again, there's a sliding scale. What's your talent level? What are your issues? And can my locker room embrace you and make you play to the better of your Angels? And you'd have to say Golden State has gotten all of the right things out of JaVale McGee and Nick Young, two guys that people didn't get a lot out of. So to your point, that's a crazy fit to think about should he fall that far.
Well, I love him. I mean, because he's a top 15 talent for sure. But if you're the Golden State Warriors, because this draft is so deep, there's a number of guys. You talk about Spellman out of Villanova. Mo Wagner, to me, will be the perfect fit for the Golden State Warriors.
Call. Great call.
I love Robert Williams and his talent, but I think Mo Wagner of Michigan, playing with the Golden State Warriors, the way he can pick and pop and also play in his toughness, I think that'd also be a great fit for the Warriors.
I know we're going to go to the pick and say, you guys surprised Kyrie Thomas, considering he could defend, slide as much Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East? I think twice, at least once for Creighton.
Not so shocked.
No.
Jalen Brunson is there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're now getting into the part of the draft where it's very much the eye of the beholder. You know, you could throw the next 15, 20 picks in a drum and pick them out and probably do just as well as all these well-paid guys who've done all their homework.
I'll give you another name that I think fits what you would say about Kyrie Thomas, who is a defensive pit bull and really is going to make his bones initially on that side of the ball.
Javon Carter.
Another guy, Javon Carter, Isif Sanin.
Yeah.
An international player, finished the season at Ljubljana. He's a Ukrainian kid. His mother's Ukrainian. His father's from Burkina Faso. He got to Ljubljana about January, even later than January. It was the first time he played against elite talent. This is a Patrick Beverly menace of a defensive player. I don't even care if his offense is a train wreck right now. That guy is the best on-ball defender in this draft, potentially.
All right, we get a chance to look at the potential, the current, and the future, the outlook of the Portland Trailblazers.
It'll be interesting to see how the Blazers react to getting swept in the first round of the playoffs. After winning 49 games last season and finishing third in the West, Portland appears to be a long way away from competing for a championship. Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum are both signed through 2021, but are they good enough to take the franchise to the next level? Portland is already over the cap for next season and has to make a decision on restricted free agent Jusuf Nurkic. Although they picked 24th in this year's draft, there doesn't appear to be a whole lot GM Neil Oshie can do to make the team significantly better, aside from possibly trading one of his backcourt stars.
The Portland Trailblazers get their man. There was a word on a tweet, there was a laser on him, so I'm glad he survived that. Here he is, Simon's IMG Academy, which brings about some different things. Grip, I want to start with you. How do you look at that? For the people who are watching and say, well, wait a minute, did he go to college?
Yeah, so it's a fascinating thing, that post-grad year at a place like IMG Academy. What I think is really interesting for Anthony is he is a kid that outside of the lottery had the highest floor and the highest ceiling. His fail rate was going to be, in all likelihood, he fails to a productive player in this league. He's a freak of nature athlete who has a silky smooth jump shot. He can handle the ball a little bit. He's very raw physically. But one of the guys he models is like a turbocharged C.J. McCollum. Well, now he's going to be with a C.J. McCollum. He's going to be with a Damian Lillard. He's going to learn how to harness those tools. Again, going to a team that is a playoff team, a team that has expectations, but can also, because of what their backcourt looks like, because of some of the value contracts they have on their books, and Mo Harkless, by way of example, they can afford to wait for a kid like this, and he is a high-reward guy whose floor is probably not something you're afraid of.
All right, don't be afraid, Laker fans. We're going to talk about you when we come back. Unfortunately, you won't be drafting LeBron at 25. We'll find out who you will be taking and whether or not it all is possible, this dream for the Lake Show.
Basketball fans, we are interrupting your current broadcast to bring you us. This is the hangout during the draft. We'll start with Donovan. Quickly, the plan is 2021, eradicate the one-and-done rule. Are you excited to see high school players eligible for the draft after that pick we just saw again?
Yeah, they're eligible to protect and serve for the country. They should be able to play basketball.
Speak on it, Mac Dime. Dan?
Well, I think it's great for the elite of them. I think it is problematic for the ones who aren't going to be drafted into the NBA because it leaves them in a bit of a whirlwind as to what they do next.
Yeah, Amy?
Absolutely excited about it. I think the college game has taken a hit the last couple of years. You're seeing programs not stable and building 1 year at a time, which is not what college basketball fans want. So, yeah.
You know what? I hear what you're saying, Dan, and I want that caveat that was added with the college players now. If you don't get the feedback you want, you should be able to go back to school. Still more to come from Canada's Home for Talking Hoops. This is the Hangout. This is the 2018 draft. We'll be back. Hang out!
From Montreal to Calgary, Vancouver to Almont, the NBA and Bell spread our love for the game through refurbishing local basketball courts. We bring our communities together.
For drug-free sinus relief, experience Navage, the next big thing in nasal care. Navage is the only nose cleaner with powered suction to pull refreshing saline rinse in one nostril and out the other. Navage relieves congestion from allergies and colds naturally by flushing out allergens, mucus, dust, and germs.
I used to get so congested, but Navage cleans out all the stuff that makes me miserable so I can breathe again.
Now at these fine stores and Navage.ca, you'll love that clean nose feeling.
It's more than a basketball. As it goes up, it can take an entire city's hopes with it and leave a country breathless. It's more than a ball. It's a shot at greatness.
At the end of this all, this is my dream.
Growing up, who was your favorite player?
Definitely Kevin Garnett. Inside Stuff, Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on NBA TV. The future looks extremely bright for the Los Angeles Lakers. They have the perfect setting for a blockbuster offseason. Let's start with the young and talented core of Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Kyle Kuzma, who only account for roughly $14 million in salary combined. The Lakers' enviable cap space of nearly $60 million is enough to bring in 2 max contracts. LeBron James and Paul George are the 2 free agents most have associated with LA's summer plans. But rumors of Kawhi Leonard's unhappiness in San Antonio have Lakers fans dreaming of the next super team. The roster's 2 biggest question marks surround Julius Randle, a restricted free agent, and Luol Deng, who still has 2 years and over $36 million left on his contract. Despite missing the playoffs for a franchise record 5th straight season, the Lakers do not have a lottery pick as they finally pay off the Steve Nash trade from 2012. The Lakers hold the 25th and 47th pick in this year's draft.
All right, we get a chance to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. They are on the clock. The pick not in just yet. Will be in a couple minutes. When you look at where the Lakers are, this has kind of been an afterthought, this pick, because there's so much conversation about what they should be doing in the future. It is though weird, guys, just as basketball fans, to hear 5 consecutive years for the Lakers without the playoffs.
Yeah, you're not used to that because this franchise has been, dominant for so many years. But I do like what they did last year in the draft. Lonzo Ball, that was the obvious, but I thought Kyle Kuzma and Josh Hart, 2 guys that were ready to play, even with a team that didn't have a lot of success. Those 2 young guys, along with Lonzo Ball, did a nice job.
All right, time to do Smitty's least favorite thing and hail to the victors, because time to talk maize and blue. Mo Wagner. Wagner is on his way to the LA Lakers. Great spirit, great shooting. We'll talk about what that means for the Lakers, but first let's shoot it down with some of their faithful. Here's Trey Kirby.
What's up, guys? I'm here with a sizable I think they're excited about Mo Wagner. Last year, Lakers hit gold with Kuzma. Is he the new Kuzma?
Is he the new Kuzma? I don't know. The next Kuzma.
Who knows if he is or not? You guys are firing up Mo Wagner. What do you think?
Eat it, Mo, baby. Eat it, Mo.
Eat it, Mo's got to be happy with Mo Wagner.
Magic's running the show, and I'm a trusty.
Is this the only acquisition the Lakers are making this summer?
No.
More to come.
We're going to get either LeBron, Paul George, or Kawhi.
Maybe all 3 of them. Only time will tell. Mo Wagner is the pick. Thank you, guys.
Man, it's like they said in Ghostbusters, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Down there in the audience with Trey Kirby. They may get superstars at the NBA level, Steph, Can Mo Wagner translate his game and become, if not a star, part of the equation with the Lakers at this level?
Definitely part of the equation. I mean, again, tailor-made for today's NBA game. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe not as good as a fit. We're now in the age of stretch fives. I think his rebounding and his defense was highly underrated at Michigan. There weren't a lot of bigs for him to be guarding at Michigan, so a lot of times he was switched out on smaller guys. He's gotten stronger. That was a big-time weakness when he came over from college. Very much under the radar when John Beilein recruited him from Germany, so it took him some time to get strong and to adjust to the American game, but highly, highly skilled and really good, Smitty, at putting the ball on the deck. He's got a great handle with both hands, can put it behind his back, between his legs, pull up from three. High motor, high energy, high emotion. Really nice pick for Los Angeles, I think.
I love the fit of this for them because they had real success with Brook Lopez starting to space the court, shooting the three, leaving room for Jerome Randall to work in the paint. If they are targeting high-level free agents, one in particular that's a ball-dominant play creator, LeBron needs the floor opened up, right? Paul George will want an open lane. So this is a really good fit for that reason. The one thing that gives me some level of caution in general terms about Mo is that Detroit took a kid, Henry Ellenson from Marquette, that was similarly a spacing, non-athletic, three-point shooting five. And Henry was actually a much better shot blocker, and Henry couldn't find time because he could not defend in space. Now, it was a little different because his coach was much more about that than Luke Walton has been. Luke, having the Golden State background, will very much understand how to sprinkle Mo in, but that is a concern for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, his foot speed is not there, but you talk about basketball fundamentals and the feel and IQ on the offensive end. At the elbow, he was pretty good. I wanted the D-line to post him up a little bit more. I know their offense, a lot of free-flowing, but he liked contact. The thing is, yes, with those superstars that may be the Lakers, I think he fit in well. But if they do not get a superstar cast, I think he'll have a chance to get a chance to play a lot of major minutes, and he'll fit well with all the young guys they have right now.
Well, if the NBA thing doesn't work, hurdling could. Take a look at this if you don't remember this video. Is that Steve Smith that he jumps over? Oh, no, wait. It's our own G. Hill.
G. Hill, look at his face.
Dude, even Raph was like, I'll catch him.
Look at Raph. No, Raph didn't try to catch him at all, and Grant got out of the way.
Grant's like, don't bury this face. 1 minute you're a Hall of Famer, the next you're a meme. Congrats, G. Hill.
Yeah, that was
lifetime streak of never taking a charge remained intact.
Look at you, Seth. All Dookies take charge.
You know,
Shane would have taken a charge. Grant just got out of the way. He's smart.
You mentioned Julius Randle. It's interesting because they have so many different domino pieces they have to play out, Griff, probably before they even get to Julius. The more you see the names, the less, and the more you hear what Eric said, the less you think it's possible he comes back. I love the way he played, though, the second half of last year. And I don't think because they were losing, people paid attention to him. But you talk about Dog, that was a guy who really played his tail off down the stretch for the Lakers last year.
Well, don't forget what Eric did for us earlier, and what he was talking about was we're dreaming big, and we're throwing some things at the board, and how can you fit all of that? They can keep Julius Randle, and they can fit a LeBron James pretty easily. They can keep Julius Randle and get a Paul George. It's getting multiples of them and keeping Julius it's somewhat at risk. But because his number on the books is going to be so low in terms of his qualifying offer in free agency, his restricted number will be low enough that you can get a max free agent and wait on whether or not to sign Julius. What you can't do is get multiples of them. So if you're looking at what's more realistic, you might see a situation where Mo Wagner is facing the court for Julius Randle and one of those big-name guys.
I also look at it as whether he's with the Lakers or not. I'm with you, Casey. I thought he had a fantastic year. I mean, the way he played, the way he pushed the basketball, he looked healthy.
And undersized compared to who they put him against all the time.
And he looked confident, and he played in limited minutes, but he played well in those minutes. I love the way he came out and played. If he's not with the Lakers, I think he can definitely find a fit the way he played last year, and he'll be in the NBA for a long time.
And again, it's going to need to be with a similar spacing five, or as a five himself, playing with a spacing four-man. Either one of those can work, but you've got to have somebody stretching the court for Julius because he really is going to be limited as a shooter to the paint right now. He takes contested twos.
You know, a team I love to see him if he's not with the Lakers, New Orleans, playing alongside Anthony Davis.
As we get ready for the Sixers pick, let's talk the streets of Philadelphia from a college standpoint. It is a champion city, as you know. Big part of that, the Villanova Wildcats. When you think about already Bridges, already DiVincenzo, Spellman, and Jalen Brunson still to come, as we get an opportunity here to talk about Nova, their players, their program, and more, with one of the greatest coaches in all of basketball. It's not that guy with the cowboy hat, I guarantee you that. That's a stall tactic.
I'll bet he can second-guess a coach like nobody's business, though.
By the way, Landry Shamet is the pick for the Philadelphia 76ers. Seth, you and I covered him in a couple of different tournaments. Thoughts on Landry Shamet?
A little surprised to see him going this high in the draft,
right?
to be honest. He's had some injuries with his feet. That's kind of a red flag. He's a little bit vanilla in terms of his game. That could be a compliment. That can cut both ways. He's not a dynamic athlete. He's a good shooter, not a great shooter. He can certainly run a team. Very, very high character individual. You know, Wichita State is very much a system type of offense, so it'll be interesting to see him unleashed in the NBA. I'm a little surprised to see him going this high over a guy who played for him, named Jalen Brunson, who I think would be a better NBA player, but that's just my opinion. I'm wrong sometimes, Jay.
26th pick as we welcome in Jay Wright. Jay, I'll ask you something I asked Tom Izzo and Avery Johnson when they were here. As a father, we all understand, you understand kids and caring about your kids, but the faces look the same when I watch you guys as coaches see your kids elevate and get drafted. What's the feeling of pride you have tonight?
That's exactly what it is. It's like your own children. You know, you see them accomplish something when they're 4 or 5 years old, or you know, and when they're 10. It's the same thing. It's your kids accomplishing their dreams and getting to a point where they learn that the hard work I put in really does pay off. You know that's going to stick with them for life.
Well, you know, Jay, I had to ask this question. I saw Mikal Bridges going to the 76ers. I said, Jay has to be excited. He'll get a chance to go. And, you know, and it's still a great fit for Mikal going to Phoenix. It is. But just talk about that possibility of Mikal being in Philadelphia. He's not there. And then also what the Suns are getting in Mikal Bridges.
Yeah. You know, Smitty, our whole team's got a group text going. You know, there someone with Jalen at his party, someone with Omari in the city. Some guys are here, some staff. So we're all texting. And when he went to Philly, we were all so fired up. And but you went from elation, then I get a text, he's getting traded, and then Dante gets picked, right? but it's a great, they're getting a great taste of professional sports, right? And we talk all the time about the only thing you can control in life is your attitude. And there's no one more prepared to handle that than Mikal. He is so mature, so grounded, and I know that Ryan McDonough loves him. You know, he was talking to me during this process, and he kept asking me questions about Mikal, and I knew they had 16. I'd answer the questions, I'm thinking, and he kept saying he's not going to slip to us there. He didn't tell me he was going to trade for him.
Most of really liked him. We talk about Dante and how he's here largely on what he did in that championship game. And not just because of that 40 minutes, but because then he puts his name in the draft and then he plays well at the combine. At what point did you realize that's where this was headed? I was almost wondering if during that second half you're thinking to yourself, maybe I hope he misses a couple so he doesn't leave. When did you realize that, hey, I'm probably going to lose this guy?
We got on the bus. We celebrated after the championship. We got on the bus the next day, and everybody's happy and talking. And Kyle Neptune, my assistant, said, yeah, this is all good. We probably lost Dante. But, you know, to your question, Seth, it was a real gradual process. There was a little spike. You know, he said, I want to try it out. If I come back, hey, I'm good. You know, and then when he went to the combine, when he got tested his 42-inch vertical, was the highest, it spiked. Then they started watching him more closely, and he competed really well. Then you go through interviews, put him in that workout one-on-one. It kept gradually going up to the point where today, getting a call from Dave Babcock of the Bucks, you realize, like, man, this is real. They're probably going to take him. It just was this consistent, gradual rise. And when he had to make the decision on the 30th, it was at a point where like 14 teams were telling us they liked him in the first round, and he had to go.
So people have gotten hip to the fact that your program is probably the best in the country and maybe the best there's been in a very long time at player development. Your guys are being successful leaving your program. They win with you, and you're building guys who get better over the course of time you're there.
Yeah.
You got another kid in this draft that you could lose, a redshirt freshman, Amari Spellman. Yeah. What does he do for an NBA team that's looking at him?
He's got the greatest upside of all these guys because he's the youngest. But the thing about these guys is they all are gym rats, you know, and they all enjoy being coached. If you looked at Omari in the beginning of the season and then you looked at him at the end of the year, it looked like a totally different player. It wasn't really us. It's just that he wants to learn. And so wherever he goes, he's going to take pride in the fact that they picked me. They're putting faith in me. I want to play hard for them, and I want to learn what they teach me. He can handle it, shoot it, he can rebound. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player.
Jay, have you ever been around a guy who's more of a competitor than Jalen in the way that he plays the game and handles life?
We've been blessed to have a lot of great guards, but you never want to say this about any of your players, but if you take all the ingredients, competitiveness, skill, intelligence, talent, I think he's probably our best. You know, he won 2 national championships. As a freshman, he won it as a role player, even though he's way more comfortable being the star. And then as a sophomore, a junior, he led us again as the go-to guy. And he can do whatever you need him to do. He's as prepared for everything you do, practice, academics, weight room, game time, as anybody I've ever seen. We say he's the most mature guy in the program, including me. and he is. It's the truth.
Not a high bar, necessarily, all the time.
It's the truth. He's going to be the consummate professional.
He hasn't gotten picked yet. Do you have any intel as far as where you expect him to get picked?
You know, right around this time is kind of where we had some teams that said they really liked him. No one in the first round said to me he's not getting past us. You know, we're guys like Dante McHale. Certain teams said he's not getting, but they said he's one of 2, right? So right around this, right about where we are right now.
All right.
Coach, appreciate it. Congrats on this big night for your program and a championship season. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, Coach. Great talking to you guys, man. Thank you.
All right, we get the state of the Celtics. Boston up next.
All-stars Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward joined the Celtics in 2017, and dreams of a title run quickly emerged. But those dreams were dashed after Hayward's devastating injury just minutes into their season opener. Young talents Jaylen Brown and rookie Jason Tatum quickly stepped up and into the spotlight. Irving, Tatum, and Brown fueled the team to a 16-game winning streak and emerged as a serious contender in the East. A knee injury forced Irving to miss the final month of the regular season and all of the playoffs. However, Tatum, Brown, Al Horford, and scary Terry Rozier powered the team past the Bucks and Sixers, all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. It took King James and the Cavs 7 games to move past the C's. The Celtics own the 27th pick in this year's draft and as many as 4 first-round picks in 2019. Both the present and future are very bright in Beantown.
The Celtics, all they do is win, win, win. And they may have here again. At 27, they get a guy who most people think talent-wise is a lottery pick. Fell maybe because of issues off the floor. You know what might help that? Brad Stevens and everything they've built with the Celtics. We'll get to that. But first, let's find out what the fans have to say. Here's Trey Kirby.
What's up, guys? I'm here amidst the Clovers, where the Boston Celtics fans just saw their team select Robert Williams. I mentioned that, Casey. Big slide, they got a lottery talent. You happy with Robert Williams?
Very happy, very happy. Perfect what we need. Big man, aggressive, perfect off the bench. We don't need more stars. Perfect pick.
Everybody was saying you guys wanted a big man. Are you happy to be getting a big man? Incredibly happy. I heard you say you wanted Amari Spellman. Robert Williams got to be happy, though.
Yes, definitely.
And you're trusting Brad Stevens?
Yes, that's what I said before.
That's what he said before. That's what he said now. And now it's on TV. Shout out to Brad Stevens. Back to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I got to go there. And Smitty asked you as a guy who was a younger player, you learned from veterans, and then we're a veteran. if you're going to get a guy who really, other than the fact that his nickname is Boo Butt, and I'm not, his nickname, his mother gave him, and he still has today, is Boo Butt.
I thought I was the only one with that
Other
nickname.
than that, I like everything that you read on the sheet about him, but how much does culture help? We mentioned the Warriors. Here we go with the Celtics for a guy like a Robert
Well, it
Williams.
helps a lot. We had Vince Carter. We were talking earlier, having a veteran presence for younger guys. Can't get any better for this kid and Robert Williams to get a chance to play alongside Al Horford and learn how to be a professional. This kid has a chance right now to play with guys where he won't be asked but to do what they did in college right now. Won't ask to do anything outside he can't do. All he has to do is be able to block shots, run, and catch lobs from Kyrie, play off Jaylen Brown and Al Horford, who's a terrific passer at the 4 or 5. And if he can bring this for 10 or 15 minutes a game with the Boston Celtics, this is going to be a nice pickup for them.
And he absolutely slaughtered that North Carolina front line in the NCAA tournament, so I'm doubly glad that Vince Carter's not here to see him. And, you know, look, I think Butler basketball has as good of a culture as any sports organization I've seen anywhere at any level. And so for Brad Stevens to bring that culture to a franchise like Boston, which has that institutionally through the decades back to Red Auerbach and beyond, we can see the way that it's worked. We can see the way that they've withstood all the adversity, all the injuries that they had this year, still get into the Eastern Conference Finals. For Robert Williams, you talk about learning, you know, getting your education in college. He's going to get a very important education right now, and he's got a great opportunity to join a championship contending team with a first-rate coach and a first-rate gentleman, a great culture, a storied franchise. If he can't take advantage of this opportunity, then he'll never be able to. I think his physical talent is just terrific. He's a perfect fit basketball-wise.
Yeah.
You talk about Al Horford.
He's a great
this is the
fit
best
for
match.
for
this
them,
is the
right?
best match of the draft.
So one of the things that Boston lost to injury this year that really hurt them was when Daniel Tice went down.
Yeah.
He's got length and athleticism. He was somebody that in their smaller lineups made them radically more successful because he was versatile enough athletically. But the thing that Robert Williams is going to do that Daniel can't do is he creates vertical spacing now. And that's not an Al Horford thing either. So he's a high-flying, dynamic, rolling finisher that's going to make the Kyrie Hayward pick and roll.
I mean, look at the highlights of this guy.
That's going to make the Kyrie Hayward pick and roll ball handling element that much more dynamic. This is a remarkable fit for the kid, as you aptly pointed out, because of Brad and that culture, because of the presence of kids that are about the right things. I mean, how about being a 19-year-old kid in Jason Tatum and having Brad come to you and say, I need you to lead this young man? That's how special Jason Tatum is. They're going to ask him to do that, and Robert's going to follow because he's a contemporary. He's in his age range. It's not going to be difficult for him to understand it coming from him.
The Golden State Warriors are on the clock. They do things that are smart. That we know. So whatever they do, last year we sat here, we had a long conversation about the Jordan Bell scenario, and that worked out. I mean, he played crazy big minutes. They made a smart pick there. This is an organization who gets it, Smitty.
Yes.
Whoever they pick is going to be somebody other teams should have.
Yeah, for sure. And also, it's the getting a chance to play with winners and getting a chance to not have that pressure is definitely a fit. And when you start talking about what they need, they don't need a lot. They need some athleticism, I think, at the wing position. But they can go with a player that can stash for a couple of years, or they can go with some players, even like a Kyrie from Creighton.
Kyrie Thomas?
Yes.
Keita Bates-Diop
I
from
think that's
Ohio State.
extremely
He's
good
a guy
fit.
who can really play in the mid-range and he can defend on the perimeter. I think he'd be a nice fit.
We'll find out where they go. Here's the good outlook of the Warriors.
The Golden State Warriors have done it again. The Dubs picked up back-to-back championships while winning their third title in 4 years. The #1 goal for the franchise is to keep the dynasty intact. The price tag for the 4 All-Stars, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant, is not cheap. The luxury tax for the Warriors is sure to skyrocket once they re-sign the 2-time Finals MVP. The team enters the draft with the 28th pick in the first round. Look for the Warriors to pick up a young talent who can develop and bring scoring off the bench for the odds-on favorites to three-peat in 2019.
This young kid,
The pick for the Golden State Warriors is Jacob Evans. And I'll say this and give him some love. He may be in the studio right now. But our own Stu Jackson, who is Mr. Big East, I asked him what player in the conference in the draft stood out to him, and he said this was the guy that people weren't talking enough about. We're going to talk about him in a second, but here's the Warrior fans in attendance with Trey Kirby. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, we've seen some great fits tonight, Casey, but this might be the fit of the draft. Head to toe, blue and gold. Warriors fans, how you feel about Jacob Evans with that pick?
Yo, I'm super excited about Jacob Evans because, you know, some of the bench players are getting older on the Warriors, and we need some young talent that could shoot and run fast and play at our pace. So this is great.
Yeah, it worked out with Jordan Bell last year. You expect Jacob Evans to be playing in the NBA Finals, winning another title next year?
All I got to say is we just picked up another future NBA champion.
That's right. We've heard a lot of boos for the Warriors. What do you say to the haters?
Haters gonna hate, lovers gonna love. Let's go Warriors!
All right, sounds good. Thanks. Back to you guys.
All right, Trey, thank you very much. Let's talk about Jacob Evans. What stands out to you, Seth? I'll start with you about the man from Cincinnati.
His size, 6'6", 210, well-built, not a freak athlete, but certainly good enough, pretty bouncy, very, very skilled for his size. So he can take a smaller defender into the mid-range, a little bit of a post game, and he can extend it behind the three-point line shot 37%, which is actually a little bit down from what he was able to do last year. So, again, a college player who was asked to carry a lot for his team, now moves to the NBA. Obviously, he's got a little bit of talent around him, and that means he's not going to have nearly the attention from the opposing defenses, be able to play in space, shoot in space. Solid pick.
Yeah, to your point, averaged Smitty over 30 minutes a game in college because of the load that was on him. Now gets to learn from a lot of guys and around his wing size right there. They got a pretty good, they got a couple of guys. Klay Thompson's pretty good, among others, to learn from.
Yeah, I think first the one thing you can stand out for him is he's going to defend. And with his size, he can defend multiple positions. That bodes well for the Golden State Warriors. Also, he handled the basketball, played a lot of point guard position for Cincinnati. So now you're looking at it, he can play a little bit of point guard with the Golden State Warriors. Then he's not a bad three-point shooter. That will increase. But he's athletic enough that I think he'll be a really good fit for the Golden State Warriors and another playmaker who can make plays.
He was asked during the draft, Pep, what player he thinks he reminds himself of. He says Jimmy Butler. Pick 30 by the, he said, pick 30 at the end of the 2011 draft by the Bulls, became an all-star. That's the guy I think I can be like. Is that a fair comp for Jacob Evans?
Boy, I mean, that's a high bar. I mean, that's a really high bar, and I hate for anybody to think that has to be the bar. I'll tell you what I do like, though. He's a high basketball IQ facilitating ball mover who can guard multiple positions. They almost lost this year to Houston because of the absence of Andre Iguodala, who is those things. Now, he's in those things in spades, and he's those things as an all-star. If Jacob's ever that, then this is an even more ridiculous steal than it could potentially be. But if you were going to put one super switchy, tough, defensive-minded winner who shoots threes in one place, he went to the right spot.
The Nets are on the clock here at 29. And even though we're not going to have any Dwight Howard tribute videos next year because he's going to be here and gone, I think if you're a Nets fan, you got to start to really get excited about what's happening in terms of the amount of money. They're not going to be paying Griff anybody right now heading into next year. You saw the growth of Jarrett Allen. Dinwiddie start to play. Russell actually played pretty well. Kenny Atkinson, we talk about all the time, maybe the most underrated coach in the league. And now all of a sudden you're really opening up space heading into the season after next.
I just think if you look at what Sean Marks and Trajan Langdon have done since they got there, they have very mindfully, patiently, and skillfully done what they're doing. They are digging out of a tremendous hole without elite assets, without elite high-level lottery picks, and they are finding a way to put together a group that Kenny Atkinson can get sweat equity with and can make overachieve. In much the same way that Brett Brown did that in Philadelphia while they weren't winning, much the same way that Brad Stevens did it before they overlaid elite talent, Brooklyn's laying that foundation right now. And by opening up the potential next summer to have 2 max slots, they are putting themselves in position to really strike and get that elite talent. And they're going to be about something by the time they get there. Remarkable job being done in that program. And it's a note where people should really pay attention. It's not always about how much you're winning today. Are you planting the seeds that we're going to sow later? Are you accountable to each other today in a way that when it comes time to really win, you have to be?
Well, you take a look at the fallout. Obviously, we remember when the Nets tried to put everything together, and Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. We are still falling out from this. Look at the picks. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kyle Kuzma. That and all of that money, to your point, Griff, of that hole, and maybe that's not even, I don't even know if that's big enough a word. I mean, that is a large hole to climb out of. Now you sit there and you look at this roster. They've got a lot of money. They also have a lot of patience. So you wonder who the pick could be, and they've got time. Could an Amari Spellman, for example, who seems to really need time to grow, be an interesting pick? They like Allen in the middle. Their guards are set. It's kind of in between where they really seem to have some trouble.
We just had coaching royalty here again, right? We've had Izzo, we had Jay Wright. Jay Wright just said he's got 4 kids that are getting drafted, and Amari Spellman's the most talented of all of them.
Yeah.
You're talking about a three-point shooting big who can block shots. There's not a lot of those around, and if Brooklyn's able to get a young version of it, you know already Kenny Atkinson and his staff